This is John Force, 16-time Funny Car champion.
Hey guys, it's Justin Ashley, driver of the Phillips Canal Toyota Top Fuel Dragster.
Hi, I'm Robert Knight, 3-time Funny Car champion.
I'm Kyle Koretsky, driver of the Lucas Oil Chevy Camaro.
I'm Dallas Glenn, driver of the Radford Systems Pro Stock Camaro.
And you're watching Inside the NHRA.
And you're tuned in to Inside the NHRA.
You are watching Inside the NHRA. I tell you what, this is Antron Brown, Comedy Drake Top Fuel World Champion, and stay tuned in to Inside the NHRA.
If you want to be entertained, this is the show, and Darren is the guy to do it.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the special Monday edition of Inside the NHRA, streaming live on American Hot Rod Entertainment, Competition Plus YouTube and Facebook, and the Dave W YouTube channel. As always, I'm your host, Darren Williams Jr., and joining me, as always, is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Dave W. How's it going, Dave?
Tonight and during the daylight hours, it's hopefully we get a nice crowd of people getting off of work and coming to tune in to break down this last Dodge Power Brokers Mile High Nationals, which you were in attendance of.
I was in attendance.
Why we didn't do the show yesterday, right?
Exactly. As you can see, I'm sorry if I look tired. I've been asleep all day, fresh off the airplane, here for this Monday edition of Inside the NHRA. Also joining us here tonight, my man, Dujanay Bland. How's it going, Dujanay?
Man, it's going great. I'm happy that you reached out to me. I'm excited to be on this show and to break this thing down.
Oh, man, we got some stuff to talk about, especially in Top Fuel Eliminator. I know you're going to go at it. So thank you guys all for tuning in to the special edition of Inside the NHRA. If you haven't already, make sure to like this show, share this show, and let everybody know we are breaking down the final event from Thunder Mountain Bandimere Speedway, the 2023 Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals. Like Dave said, I was in Denver this past weekend. First time going to Bandimere Speedway. I want to say right off the bat, probably the best racetrack I've ever been to. You talk about the scenery, the seats carved into the side of the mountain. You guys all know I talk about it all the time. I love timing towers. So I was ecstatic when I got to see Dallas's timing tower in person, Houston's, and now I get to see Denver's, the shutdown area, going up the hill. Just everything was amazing about Bandimere Speedway, and I was happy I was able to see it go out in a blaze of glory. And I'll tell you what, great performances in all four of our professional categories, and we're going to break it all down in just a little bit. Also, if you guys would like to support the show, I am appreciative of anything. $1, $5, $10, a penny. Well, maybe not a penny, but I'm appreciative of anything. Throw down a super chat in the comments, and we will show your comments on the show. But I'm done babbling. Let's now kick it off. The drought continues for Doug Coletta at Coletta Motorsports. Dujanay, not to the final round, but just couldn't close it out. Clay Millican, second win of the season. That is second most in the class, but Doug Coletta comes up short once again.
That Alan Johnson syndrome is real, bro. I'm telling you. It's unfortunate for Doug because I really like Doug, and it just seems like, since the whole Schumacher thing, it just hasn't panned out. And this year, again, hasn't panned out. I'm just real interested here. I looked at the numbers, okay, in that semi. In the semi before, Doug Coletta runs a 3.861. So if I come back, if I'm AJ and I take what the defense is giving me and I come back and run another 3.861, guess what? If Dougie leaves on time, that's a dub. So what were we doing in the final round? Another phantom tire smoke comes out of nowhere when the car is running pretty good all day, and another L. I don't know what to tell you. All I'm saying is Alan Johnson syndrome.
I know what to tell you.
Ego.
Alexis DeJoria puffed the tires in that left-hand lane too, didn't she, in the final round?
Sure enough.
Maybe there was some in that lane. And you broke it down, but you forgot one very, very, very important. What was his margin of victory in that semifinal round of eliminations?
Throw it at me.
1,000th of 1 second. What was Steve Torrance's speed in that semifinal round of eliminations?
Yeah, it wasn't really high.
Mile an hour.
Yeah.
If Torrance's motor wasn't eating itself up,
He
Dougie wasn't going to the finals. The 86 was a stout run, but he was about to get whooped by an 84 or an 85 in the other lane. Plus, Torrance had 200ths of them on the tree, too.
Fair.
So I think Alan Johnson, instead of going down that lane and repeating another 86, probably thought, may need to go at 85 or an 84 to keep up. And maybe they turned the knob a little too far. And maybe the lane couldn't hold it, you know. A little bit later in the day, hard to say. I mean, you would think you could just repeat in that particular lane, but the first 2 rounds of the day, when he went 87 and 86, he was in the right lane and he was in the left lane, and they did not have lane choice going into the final after Clay ran that 385 in the right lane.
Right.
So they knew they were getting stuck back in that left lane. They had to go for it. They had to, because they knew Clay.
I guess I'm just a guy that is take what the defense gives you. And we saw it from Rob Passy, right? Guy didn't go out there and try to go running some big time number. He went out there and ran what he knew he could run. And what did he do? He turned on the wind light. So at the end of the day, when you're struggling and you're really you're barely getting out of the second round, when you're in this position, at least give yourself an opportunity to win. Don't go out there and go puff it up. I mean, at least give yourself a chance. You just don't know, especially with all that was going on. People are dropping cylinders all day long. Yeah, you could have had an opportunity.
What do you think? Doug does his job on the starting line?
Absolutely. I give it to my driver. I set it up the way I need to set it up so that I can get down the racetrack and hope that I can get my driver to win me a little bit. I mean, Matt Hagan did it. Matt Hagan came up big for his team,
yes,
stuck it in a little bit, 008, boom. So, I mean, you got one of the greatest drivers to be out here ever in Doug Coletta. Let's just get that clear. So trust him. Trust him.
2 years since they've been in the final, man, they got a little nervous.
Yeah, well, you know, I just you're supposed to be the czar of the playbook. Like, that's just my only thing. Like, we have to recognize that this dude is the czar of the playbook. All right. And I sometimes you just got to take what is being given to you. And if you give yourself an opportunity and put it back on your driver and say, look, this is what we got, I'm going to ask you to go out and get one for us. Dougie can do that.
But I'll tell you what, though. Credit where credit is due. No, they did not get the win, but Doug Coletta qualified number 2. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't smoke the tires all weekend long until that final round. Alan Johnson had a handle on that race car.
And when we're talking about low ET, Doug Coletta picked up the most qualifying point every qualifying points. Now, he wasn't running Brittany numbers, he wasn't running Antron numbers, but they were second quick of every session. So yeah, they definitely had a comfortable mile high tune-up going in this deal.
And we're going to talk about it. And I don't know, maybe, this may be a factor. Let's not forget his opponent in the final round, Clay Millican, did run a 79 in the heat of the day in qualifying, which was the run of the weekend. They thought, hey, maybe he can step up and run this thing again or get even closer to that. So who never knows? But hey, we're going to break it up.
Go look at the numbers, though. Go look at the numbers for every round for Clay. You know, I'll liken it to stick and ball sports. If I'm a coach, no, we are not going to go on what we think we know. We know what we've seen on tape. The tape don't lie. And the tape showed where he was hanging out in all day long, where Clay was hanging out in and what they were, we'll get to that about why they were hanging out there, but they were hanging out in those 80s all day long. So at least give yourself an opportunity. That's all I'm saying. And as usual, here comes the phantom. You're running great all weekend. We've seen this before. They qualify great, run great all qualifying, run great in the first round, and all of a sudden here comes phantom smoke. It just so happened to be in the final this time.
Well, and Clay's motor was eating itself up too. If you look at his run, his final round was only 299.60, where he was 322, 312, and 314 the other runs. But if you overlay Clay's runs in first round, second round, third round up against Doug Coletta's and matched their reaction times up, Clay would have beat him every round.
Yeah, Clay had some good reaction times.
He did, and he would have won the semis on a hole shot because Doug had a 059 light with his 386, and Clay had a 050 with his 386 with an 8. So he still would have beat him. He would have beat him on a hole shot.
Yeah.
So they had to do something, and I got to give them props for trying, man. It's the last race on the mountain, man. You got to go for it.
It is the last race on the mountain.
Oh, and by the way, who's tuning Clay's car?
Jimmo, baby.
And you think he didn't like looking over at that lane going, "Hi, boys, remember me?"
Yeah, Jimmo got a swagger back, baby.
Yeah, he did. He was giving them the gut punch like they used to get on the mosh pit when the starting line. Yep. There's always a little extra. Always a little extra with them boys.
Yes, sir.
Well, Doug Coletta may have come up short in the final round, but like we just said, Clay Millican was the one in the winner's circle. So that's a great segue, you guys. Let's kick off the show. I know we talked a lot already, but let's kick off the show, you guys, with Top Fuel Eliminator. His mama called him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay. 5th career win for Clay Millican. He picks up the final trophy from Vandermeer Speedway, the final NHRA Mile High Nationals. And I'll tell you what, takes down Doug Coletta in the final round. That is now 2 wins on the season for Clay Millican, second best in the class. Had the run of the weekend, 379 in qualifying. Dave W., man, how about that Clay Millican?
I tell you what, it was it's one of those things like they talked about, feast or famine. They either out round one or they're winning the race. And, 2 wins, second most on the year. And where's he at in the points?
10.
You know what I mean?
10,
so
baby.
That tells you kind of just how tough this field is right now. But you know what? Their tune-up worked on the mountain. They made it down. They did what they had to do. And it was very special for Clay, as you heard in his top-end interview. It was very meaningful for him, the whole team. And, hopefully they can carry it through and they don't go out to Seattle next weekend and just another up in smoke or first round loss. But that remains to be seen if they can keep that momentum going. So, yes, it is 2 wins on the year for him. Like you mentioned, second most just to Justin Ashley. The one thing that I thought of and we were talking about, I had mentioned the other day to you, was you look at the likes of Brittany Force, Tony Schumacher, Steve Torrance, Josh Hart, all these guys that you would expect, they're winless on the year, and Clay Millican's got 2.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought that going into this year by this point in time?
What did you think about Clay Millican getting the win? 5th win of his career, but second of the year. That is now second most in the class, only behind Justin Ashley. And like I said, run of the weekend, 379 in Q3 in the heat of the day in qualifying. Man, Jimmo, he had a handle on that race car this weekend.
Yeah, that was the run. That run in the Q3 was it. And I thought when I saw that run, I was like, oh boy, I think Jimmo is going to hit on something this weekend. Saw that in the first round where they got down the racetrack. Great job by that team. He's 8-3 now in his last 5 races, round win-loss record. I'm going to say this. So I hope Jimmo's listening here. Jimmo's just got to trust himself now. I think in the last couple of races, you run your car different when you don't have quality parts. So you're pushing a little bit harder because they're a little bit worn. And earlier in the season, they were pushing it pretty hard, blowing things up. And I was critical about that. It can't be blowing stuff up every weekend. But I think now Jimbo had his groove back in Chicago. He's got to trust himself now. He's still got it. Obviously, we're on the mountain, a little bit different setup. But, man, he ain't forgot how to tune. And he's made that clear twice with 2 wins. So I think it's more of Jim trusting himself, going with his gut, and doing what he knows how to do best. And with them bringing on Bruce Reed, guys won 7 championships, 24 with his family. He's a guy from Australia that's going to come in and help them out other than Dallas. It's been a good combination when he's been there. I think that's also another confidence builder for Jimmo that he can still do this thing. But, brother, believe in yourself. You've been here. You've done that. It's time for you to show up and show out and keep pushing up the ladder and getting Clay a little bit further up that ladder so he can contend for a championship.
Yeah, Clay Millican mentioned, the addition of Bruce Reed to the team and how he's been a great asset. And so let's now take a look at the highlights of Clay Millican's day, because what a day it was. First round, taking on the Stars, Tony Schumacher, in a solid run in first round, 3.840, 322, as Clay Millican moves in round number 2. He takes down the 8-time Top Fuel World Champion, Tony Schumacher. Then we move in round number 2. We're on board with Mike Salinas right here, and Clay Millican's going to get another round win. Mike Salinas up in smoke. Clay Millican sails on down through there, 386 with an 8 at 312 miles per hour. Clay Millican is into the Final Four. Then we move into the semifinals. Now we're riding along with Clay, and he's taking on Sean Langdon, one of the best levers in the building. But Clay Millican gets the advantage off the starting line by 7th out, and he gets the round win. Best run of the day so far, 3.859, 314, as Clay Millican is moving into a second final round of the season. Now, on the other side of the ladder, in the final round, we've been talking about him all show. He's going to take on Doug Coletta, your number 2 qualifier. Doug Coletta first round taking on Terry Totten. Doug Coletta, 387.6, 307. Not a big speed right there. Obviously, it's hurting himself at the top end, but Doug Coletta moves. It's round number 2. Then it's Doug Coletta, Josh Hart. Josh Hart with a close round win, against Leah Pruitt in round number 1. He's going to come up short right here in another great race, 386 to a 387. Doug Coletta, 386, 315. Great drag race right there. Top end, Coletta gets the round win. He's into the semifinals. Then it's the monster matchup. The 4-time Camping World Top Fuel Champion of the World taking on Steve Torrance, taking on Doug Coletta. And Doug Coletta is going to get the round win once again. Steve Torrance problems at the top end. Doug Coletta, 386-1, 318 as he moves into the final round. So let's now take a look at this final round right now. Doug Coletta, Clay Millican, final trophy from Bandimere Speedway. Let's take a look at that final round right now.
They stage him up. Doug Coletta smokes the tires. 387, 299 miles an hour, and look at the Parts Plus guys going crazy. Clay Millican said this morning, twice we won first round, and last time we won the whole thing. I'm going to step on that loud pedal 3 more times today, and 3 more times is what he did.
Can take in this moment, and you're going to go watch that highlight back. Your team was going absolutely nuts on the starting line, including your sisters. You just said, I have the last Wally from Bandimere. How extra special is that?
I tell you what, it's pretty dang incredible because you can only do this once, and I'm sad that this is the last one, but holy moly, am I so proud of everybody that makes this team go. Thank you, Rick Ware, for believing in us. So proud my sisters were here. First time they've been here when I won a Wally, and I love all of y'all folks. I love this group taking pictures. My buddy Freiberger's here. My PFI Speed buddies are here. It's amazing. We just won another Wally. Yeah!
Better buy a couple of plane tickets. Your sisters are going to Seattle.
His mama named him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay. I went up to Clay in the media center afterwards, and I told him that, and he loves whenever I come to him and say that. And so congratulations to Clay Millican, 5th career win, 2nd on the season, 2nd most this season, only behind points leader Justin Ashley. Joining us now, who was also at Bandimere Speedway, my boy, Mike Dennis, RPM HD. Mike, what you think about Clay Millican getting the win at Bandimere?
It was a great win for him. He's already won once this year, but I mean, I'll be honest, it surprised me. I did not expect Clay to win this weekend. It did shock me, but it was a great win for him, and I'm actually happy for him. I think someone said he's still 10th in points. It's like he has the 2nd most wins on the season, and he's barely in the top 10. That's crazy. It just shows you where Top Fuel is this season.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, I don't think Clay Millican was everybody's first pick going into this weekend, but I'll tell you what, I've said it multiple times on this show so far. When he laid down that 79 in the heat on Q3, I'm like, oh man, they got something right there, and they just built off that in final eliminations. Got a great comment right here from Leah Millican, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Leah Millican Hubbard says, thanks, Nicole. Another comment right here with the hand clap. So thank you for tuning in to this edition of Inside the NHRA. And Nicole actually said Clay had good juju from his family too. So how about that right there? But Dave, just how about the emotion from Clay Millican in that top end interview right there?
Well, and he completed the Thunder double. He won at Thunder Valley and Thunder Mountain. He's got them both.
Yeah.
And the last one. So, yeah, I mean, that was awesome. You could tell. And the funny thing is, most people don't realize, because of his struggles that he's had on the NHRA side, how well he did on the IHRA side, how many championships and how many events he won at how many different tracks. I mean, he went almost one calendar year winning everything but 2 rounds. I mean, the man was just unstoppable. And he has not had the same success on the NHRA side. But that's not to say that, it's never too late to start a win streak and get your career going. To me, the most amazing thing is that it's only his 5th career win. I mean, for as long as he's been out there and as long as he's been doing this, and it's only career win number 5. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely emotional. Not only was it the last race on Thunder Mountain, but these are hard to come by. So you got to enjoy every one you get.
Yeah. And so there's Clay Millican's sister in the comments. So I really do appreciate that. I want to throw that out right there. So thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate that. You got it, DJ.
I had an opportunity to see Clay in the IHRA. Clay was my guy. Like, when you saw that Warner Enterprises truck, you thought of Clay. It was awesome to see that. It's awesome to see him here too. I really wish he would have won more and had a championship already. But you know what? There's no other better guy. I remember when I was nobody and I had just started my own YouTube show, and I went to Charlotte for the first time, and he recognized me. He actually would watch that show. It's just amazing to see what he's done. Like I said, it couldn't happen to a better guy. I'm very happy that he has the funding from Rick Ware and that whole team to be able to do what I know he can do, and we all know he can do, and that's win. And now they just have to put it together.
And as you guys are all tuning in now, we have talked about the finalist Doug Coletta in depth at the beginning of the show. So let's now take a look at the top field ladder and see how it all played out today. And for you, Mike D, as you're now joining us now here on the show, one matchup that really sticks out is the matchup between Josh Hart and Leah Pruitt, round number 1. Leah Pruitt, 0:36 reaction time, but still came up short to Josh Hart. Just goes to show how tough top field is.
Yeah, I would be sick still if I were Leah. You go 36 on the tree, which is phenomenal in top field, and you lose on a whole shot. She can't even get mad. I mean, it was just one of those unfortunate incidents. It wasn't even an incident. It's just drag racing. I mean, you go 0:36 in the top field dragster, and anyone is going to take an 0:36 anytime on a tree. And Hart goes 0:23. Who would ever thought?
And then another surprise in the first round, going to you, Dujanay, Rob Passy. Rob Passy strikes again. Takes down Brittany Forrest. If you guys don't know, Brittany Forrest, 372 in Q4, 337 miles per hour, track record speed by a full 7 miles per hour. Rob Passy takes her out first round. He strikes again. He is the giant killer. 3rd career round win for Rob Passy.
Oh, man, I loved it. You know what? When they rolled up and they lined up, I was like, Rob gonna get somebody again. I had that feeling. And again, they come out, they run their race, they run what they know they can do, and they get that thing down the racetrack and get that W. I was just smiling from ear to ear. Each and every time that guy comes out, he does not allow himself to be a pushover. He makes sure that when you line up, you better hope that you have all 8, and you better get from A to B the way you're supposed to, or he's going to be right there to pick you off. And he picked her off, man. It was fun to watch. That was real fun to watch.
Dave, 3rd career round win for Rob Passy. 2 has come against Doug Coletta. The other one against Brittany Forrest this past weekend on Thunder Mountain. Great to see that, smaller funded team get the round win.
Brittany said it after qualifying. She's like, going into that last session when, of course, they ran the absolute run of the weekend. I know Clay's in the heat was, but 337 miles an hour on Thunder Mountain. I mean, that is the run. But she said, well, our best run that we've had other than that is a 390. So, and she said so in pre-race when they interviewed her, the number 1 qualifier interview. She's like, the guys are up there now looking to see what lane they want to pick. You know, we don't really have a solid tune-up to run on. And, I mean, it went out there, made it a couple 100 foot, dropped a cylinder, and I don't know if something mechanically went wrong or they flipped a switch from the starting line when that cylinder went out because they didn't want it to go off like a bomb. They just flipped it. But if you saw how that car shut off, it seems like it was either mechanically shut off or shut off by the crew chief on the starting line, not her getting out of the gas, because that thing abruptly nosedived when it turned off. So tough weekend for them, but man, that speed.
No, for sure. And me and Mike Dennis were in the media center when Brittany ran at 337. And Mike, what was my reaction when that 337 came up on the scoreboard? Remember, I was tapping. I was like, "Oh, buddy, David Grubnick, he had that thing tuned up."
Yeah, you were pretty shocked. I mean, I was as well. I mean, I don't think anybody expected to see that speed on the mountain. We hadn't seen that speed from that car like we had last season too consistently. But you were pretty shocked. You were pretty shocked. I was shocked. I mean, yeah, that was it was an absolute jaw dropper. And I remember telling you, I stepped outside of the tower right after the run. Right after that run took place, you see multiple crew chiefs going back to their cars, opening up the toy box. Right, she was the first car down the track that session. She was the first car. Mm-hmm. And after that, I went out the back of the tower, and you see multiple crew chiefs making changes from that moment on.
That is the fastest speed of 2023.
And it happened on the mountain.
At any track.
Wow.
Yeah, on the mountain.
At any track.
On the mountain.
Fastest.
On the mountain.
How about
with
this?
No air.
12th fastest overall.
That's crazy.
12th fastest speed overall. And do you know the last time that Thunder Mountain had the speed record?
I think it was
1999.
No, I think it was 2019.
You got all the way back to 1981.
Wow.
Jeb Allen had but this is back when they had altitude factored speeds. So his run was altitude factored to 254.01, which was above the national record at the time of 250.69.
That's funny.
Wow.
Obviously, 1982 they stopped with the altitude factors because Bob Glidden and Kenny Bernstein both set national records there in altitude factors in 80 and 81 as well.
Definitely,
old school history there.
We talk about Clay Millican's run of the weekend with that 379 as far as final eliminations, but definitely that 337, the shot heard around the world by Brittany Forrest, David Grubnick, and that whole Monster Energy top field team. Man, what a shot they ran in qualifying. One more matchup I want to talk about in first round, going to you, Dave. Not a surprise, but Steve Torrence and Justin Ashley, obviously Justin Ashley, best race car in top field so far here in 2023, but he had won the past 7 matchups against Steve Torrence, had a stranglehold on that kind of rivalry right there, but right. Torrence ended that when he took down Ashley in round number 1.
And it was surprising to see the tires break loose the way that they did. And, I'll be the first to admit when Saturday rolled around and he picked up another too fast, too tasty challenge, I'm like, well, here we go. Let's see how far this points lead can come out. And then the way the qualifying ladder laid out, 6 and 11, I'm like, well, man, 1 and 2 in points first round. I mean, nothing against Justin, but I mean, if you're trying to not stink up the show, you're pulling for Steve, so that way everybody else has a chance to close back in a little bit. But it was a shock for sure that they were another team that didn't really seem to have a handle on it all weekend. I mean, when you qualify that far down, and I wouldn't say that he got lucky to win the challenge, but on his Saturday performances, I mean, a 398, Brittany Force smoked the tires, and then in the final, Austin did as well. And I mean, he only went a 388, which was a little bit better. His reaction times were definitely there on par, but just kind of a throwaway weekend for the whole Phillips Connect team.
15 championship bonus points, though, in their back pocket. Like you just said, 5th Mission Foods Challenge win, 15 bonus points. That's almost a full round of racing they have picked up in championship bonus points. You talk about Brittany Force last year, how she picked up all the regular qualifying points that comes along with it. But these are even more important because they will stick with you even into the countdown. So, man, this is a big deal for that team. And a few more challenges to go before the countdown starts. Let's see if they can keep adding that on even more. Obviously, they won't be in the one in Seattle next weekend, but let's see if they can add some more on before the countdown starts. One more shout out I want to give is to the man making his season debut, Greg Carrillo. First run out of the box, first time down the track, first pair out, and he goes 383. It was good enough to be number one qualifier after the first session. Dujane, great to see Greg Carrillo come out the box and lay down that number. And man, had an all around good weekend overall, though.
Yeah. You know, I know a lot of people say this is home track or whatever, but at the end of the day, you still got to put it all together. You know what I mean? You still got to go out there. You got to do your homework. And it shows, regardless of whether it's their home track or not, you could tell that they did their homework and they came out and they were able to make a nice run out there. It's really cool. We've seen a lot of that this season. It's not like the old days, you know, in my childhood days where you knew that certain people that were going to come out, I will leave them nameless, that were going to come out and they were going to oil the track down in qualifying, or they were going to do something, you know, something that was going to cause us to have a delay. But these guys, and if they made the show, you knew that first round, it was going to be another burnout. They were going to do 2 burnouts, and that was going to be it. You know, but now we see guys, whether it's in Funny Car with Terry Haddock, whether you see Greg Carrillo, all these guys are coming out and they are doing their homework, and they're like, look, I understand I can't run what I'm going to run against said team, but I'm going to come out, I'm going to give myself an opportunity to win, and if you slip up, I'm going to get you. And I love that. I love that these guys are giving themselves an opportunity to win. It looks good, gives you great racing, but also it puts a little bit of pressure on that power team that has more money than them, that they realize too that they can't go out here and slip up and push it too far or not have enough, because they're going to be there. So this has been great and good for Greg Carrillo and that team.
Yeah, Greg Carrillo got beaten first round by Sean Langdon. We talk about Rob Passy, who upset Brittany Force in round number 1. Rob Passy almost upset Sean Langdon in round number 2 as well. Sean Langdon had a cylinder out as soon as he hit the throttle.
And he was late. He was you see his reaction time? It was an uncharacteristic
late time, yeah.
Sean Langdon light.
Yeah.
But before we go away from Greg Carrillo, just some quick notes on him. He won Super Comp here at the Mountain in 1990. I don't know if y'all know that, back in the Sportsman days. And he has qualified for the top fuel field here ever since his debut back in 2017. He has qualified for every field. Some of them have been 16, 15 cars, but some of them have been more. He actually lost last year at Denver first round to Sean Langdon. But if you go back 2 years, he beat Antron Brown first round here in 2021, if you remember that, going back there. So he's been at Denver since 2017, and he's qualified the car, and he's gone rounds. So, yeah, I mean, that's cool. Wouldn't be a bad thing if you had a top field drag, so you come out at your home race once a year and beat up on the big boys.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's now take a look at the top field standings post the Mile High Nationals. Justin Ashley still on top by 54 markers over Steve Torrance. Leah Pruitt, despite the first round loss, is still third. Brittany Forrest fourth, and Austin Prock rounds out the top 5. And like you see, Clay Millican, he has 10th in points after that big time win up on the mountain, Thunder Mountain, this past weekend at Bandamere Speedway. So before we move on, you guys, any final thoughts on Top Fuel Eliminator?
Yeah, did you look at them points?
Yeah, we just looked at them.
Justin Ashley went out first round, and nobody walked through that door.
Nobody.
Steve Torrance closed in a little bit. Round, Brittany was out first round. Antron went out early. Salinas didn't do well. Josh Hart. Leah was, all these guys who it's like, all right, the door's open. Go ahead and step forward. Nope.
Well, Steve was down the hall, but he tripped over his feet and fell on his face.
He did. I mean, he had every intention of leaving this deal, probably about 14 points out with a win.
Yes, sir.
But the fact that nobody else could close in, which, again, I know we talk about it all the time. They're resetting it at Indy, so what's the difference anyway? I wish there was a top 10 battle, but
Me too.
Everybody's going to make it. We're going to have 12 or 13 dragsters going for it at by the time we get to start the countdown. But yeah, just one of those things to think that points leaders out. Okay, everybody can go ahead, and they all followed suit.
Also, to this point, does anyone think that Sean Langdon has an 11th place car? I mean, he hasn't won yet, but I don't see Langdon being 11th in points, and that's where he's at right now, and that's crazy to me.
Driver, no. Car, tuner, yes. Bill Barcel said, "You are what you are," and they just haven't given the driver a consistent car. That's the problem.
Outside of Justin Ashley, who really has had a consistent car this year?
True that. That's a very good point. Not too many people. Not too many people.
And when I looked at that, it just dawned on me when he showed me it. I'm like, Langdon's 11th. I mean,
yeah, but you got to look at it this way. He has had. Denver was the first time since Las Vegas that he even made it out of the first round.
Yeah.
He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 first round losses consecutive. I mean, that car has been, that's why he is where he is, you know?
Yeah.
And,
I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, numbers don't lie. I get it.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie. You just wouldn't, it's hard to believe those numbers.
Yeah,
it's
true. It is. I agree. But yeah, unfortunately, that's just how his season's been going. And they've been making solid runs. They're just running up against, because of how tough this field is now and where you fall in qualifying, he's running, Brittany Force, Steve Torrance, Tony Schumacher, Leah Pruitt, Doug Coletta, Antron Brown, first round races.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are not first round matchups, and you got to bring your A game.
Exactly.
And as a driver, I think Langdon does. And, you figure one of those, he would have got a whole shot win or just out. I mean, because he can run with all of those cars. Those aren't necessarily cars that we're going to say, okay, Langdon's not going to win.
The last time he did was against Schumacher at Pomona. You got a whole shot win on him with that 74.
Speaking of Schumacher, who sees him in 12th with Mike Neff?
Yeah.
12th.
I mean, amazing how that plays out sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey,
and when you think about it, look at Clay. He's won 2 first round races. He's won the race, but you take away the 2 race wins. I mean,
yeah,
can't take that
so
away.
It's been a tough way to go.
It's crazy. I mean, Clay only wins a race when he wins a round.
And so, speaking of Clay Millican, we have a question here from Young Pablo. He says, question, is it bad news for the rest of the top field if Clay and Jimmo get consistent? And Clay's worst ET was only a 387. He was super consistent. So who wants to start first?
I think
that's the Denver tune-up. We'll see what happens. Because here's the problem. You got to be good. Clay's going to be in the countdown. You got to be able to run 60s this fall to go rounds. So 80s on the mountain's great, but Denver's always been a one-off. So we'll see what they could do when the air is there.
I agree. We're gonna have to wait and see on that. See what happens when we get back down to sea level. Again, they've shown what they can do in Chicago, and I felt like after Chicago, that was when we needed to see a turnaround and an upward trend. This is great for their confidence, and like I said earlier, I think Jimmo just simply needs to trust his play calling. Trust the play calling. You've shown that you can do this before. It's probably a little bit of a learning curve going from having to use used parts to use nice and have everything great, there for you. Now you just have to put it all together. And I think it's just a trust factor. And I think this addition with Bruce Reed being a co-pilot here, someone to kind of to bounce things off of is going to help Jimmo build his confidence and get this thing turned around. Because if they do, we all know that this car can run in the 60s. It's capable. Just going to have to put it together. So, we'll see. We're going to have an opportunity here in the next couple of races to show if they can do that. And it's going to be something if they do, that's for sure.
Drag Racing Central says everyone is a Clay Millican fan. And then Walt Walker, I met him in Las Vegas. He's a racer himself, and he actually helps out Bruno Massel from time to time. He says Clay is good people. And then Young Pablo says the GOAT right there. I think that's no. Is that I got bad eyes. Is that a GOAT?
That's a GOAT.
I like these squares.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
Squares.
I don't see the images. I don't see the icons. I just see blank squares on my screen.
Yeah, it's a goat. It's 4 little goats.
Okay.
I told Mike and Denver, I was like, yeah, I got bad eyes, bro. You got to help me out sometime.
Yeah.
And I'm with Nicole. We don't need no participation trophies. I'm quite sick of it, to be honest with you. It takes away from that 9, 8. That takes away from that 10, 9, and 8 spots when they're jammed together. You got that fight for that 10th or that 9th spot. It just waters everything down. And we all know that 11 and 12, you 11 and 12, you ain't doing jack anyway.
Well, we're to the point
For
of the
what?
season where ESPN used to at least focus on those guys and be like, these are countdown critical matchups and
Right.
who's going to make it and who's not. But you kind of eliminate some of that drama. Although
Absolutely.
we do have, as we get a little bit later in the show, there are 2 drivers who have locked themselves into the top 10 already in different categories.
And I think you want the drama, especially getting the Indy.
Absolutely.
You want that drama. I mean, that's something that you really want to see. I mean, if you see a big name, I believe it's Courtney Force some years back where she didn't even make the countdown. You know,
Right.
Well, we had drama last year with Blake Alexander, I think it was, and Chad Green in the first round in Indy, and they didn't even play. That was the last spot of the countdown until after it was over. Like when they came back for round 2, they were like, "Oh, by the way." So it's like they don't even pay attention to it.
Yeah, and now this all came to fruition when the Billy Torrance situation, where he only ran a handful, 10 races, I believe, and still made the countdown. And I mean, I don't really understand what the issue was. I mean, you had some guys run the whole tour and didn't make the countdown, and he did, only running, I think, 10, 11 races that season. Credit to him.
So super simple. Yeah. You got to do both. You got to run all the races and be in the top 10. Not either or.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both.
Exactly.
You got to run them all and be in the top 10. If you
because
don't,
you know what you're creating by that? You know what you're creating by that? By doing this here? It's the same thing that they do with the NBA and all this other nonsense. Look, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to show up to everything, and I'm going to, all I got to do is reach this number and I'm going to make it in. So as long as I come in and participate, I'll be in the countdown. It's weak and it waters down the countdown, and Drag Racing Central is saying it best. The drama, that was the whole point of the countdown, to create drama, because people were running away with this thing. And now I just get to have a participation trophy. I can show up every week and get in.
Yeah. So Dave, you would be for, let's say someone, you said it would have to be either or. So basically, if someone didn't run all the races but yet had enough points to make the top 10, you would be for that?
You don't make it. If you only ran 5 races,
that's not their fault.
Got 10th in points, you're out.
I mean, I would blame the other competitors for allowing that to happen. I mean,
I agree.
Right, but you can't. I don't feel like it should be either or. It should be both. You got to run all the races and make the top 10. It's no different than NASCAR. You can't be in the NASCAR playoffs either without a win and running all the races, or a top 30 and a win, or be top 16 in points.
Yeah,
but correct. Now, I hear you.
They get waivers and whatnot for injuries and whatnot. So I mean, everybody's getting too lax with their rules. People are afraid in this society to put their foot down and tell somebody they can't make it. They are afraid to go to Tony Schumacher and say, "You're a multi-time champion, and Skag puts a bunch of money into the sport, but you ain't part of this countdown
because you didn't make it."
Because you didn't make it. They don't want to do that,
and that's
a problem.
Then don't have a countdown then, because it's weak. If you're doing it this way, it's absolute weak sauce. I don't know. I don't know other way to cut it. And if you're gonna have that rule that you got to be at every race, like you said, then it's either you're at every race and you make top 10, and if you come in 5 races and run 6 races and you make the countdown, you weren't at every race. Bye-bye. Simple as that. Or don't have the rule at all. That's just it. Because otherwise, countdown is just
right. Because if, like you said, if Billy Torrance made it and he only ran a partial schedule, but he won the races he was at, well, he was that much better than everybody else. What is like you said, what does that say for the field? So
right.
Well, that's their fault.
Have it both ways.
Yep.
That's the field's fault for letting him win. I'm not saying letting him win, but that's the field's fault. They couldn't keep up with him.
Right.
The NASCAR theory I get, but NASCAR emphasized wins to get to the countdown. You win and you're in. It's kind of a deal with the NASCAR thing. Where if a guy runs 7 or 10 races and gets in, well, don't punish me because I made the top 10. Blame those other guys who couldn't beat me.
Exactly.
Well, then write the rule that way.
I feel you on that too.
Or just leave it what it was, top 10 only.
And then just speaking of getting laxed, as far as NASCAR, you do not have to be in the top 30 anymore to make the NASCAR playoffs. That changed this year. But great conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, the top 30 rule's gone away. Yeah, it's gone away. So yeah, like you said, people are getting very lax with their playoff formats, but great conversation here on Inside the NHRA. In the end, Clay Millican gets the win, 5th career win in the NHRA, 2nd of the season. That is 2nd most in the class. Top few eliminators in the books. Let's now move on to the floppers. Nitro Funny Car. This was the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals, and the driver of the Mopar Direct Connection Dodge pretty much swept the weekend, and Dave's going to get into it, but he wins the Mission Foods Too Fast and Tasty Challenge, and he takes home the win on Sunday. 47th career win for Matt Hagan, and I'll tell you what, he's the points leader. Great weekend for Matt Hagan this weekend, Dave.
It was, and it's one of those things where we kind of talk about the other drivers that won. Troy Coughlin's 4th win, Gage Herrera's, Clay's 5th. Those guys are low on the win list. Not Matt Hagan. 47th win, 50th number 1 quality. And I'm surprised that they really didn't play this up, but the Dodge Power Brokers car winning the Dodge Power Brokers Mile High Nationals was the 250th win for a Dodge-bodied funny car. And there was nothing said about it. You think that Dodge and Mopar would want to just celebrate the hell out of all that. Yeah, I mean, that was just an awesome performance. Win the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge on Saturday, doubled up on Sunday, number 1 qualifier. The only thing that he missed was top speed of the meet, which Alexis DeJoria took away from him by a couple of tenths of a mile an hour. Otherwise, it would have been a clean sweep for Matt Hagan. Extends his points lead, still number 1. Yeah, I mean, it was just a flat-out whooping.
All right, I got to say something. Obviously, I was just joking when I said this, too. I wasn't serious. But I got to give apology to Matt Hagan, Dickie Venables, and that whole team. After the win in Las Vegas, they kind of fell off. And I said, we need to put an APB out for Matt Hagan because I don't know where he's been. Well, they have proved me wrong because final round in Norwalk and they get the win in Denver. So I want to apologize to that whole team. Obviously, I was just joking when I said that. But still, that team is strong right now. And Dujane, Matt Hagan, another win this season. He's your points leader, 47th of his career, sweeps the weekend. Magical weekend. And not to mention this, this is actually his mother's birthday weekend. She passed about 6 months ago, but her birthday would have been Saturday. He got really choked up in the media center after he won the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. So all around, just a magical weekend up on the mountain for the Dodge driver, Matt Hagan.
Yeah, it's impressive, man. This guy, he brings it, on every run. They don't call him the Hulk for nothing. And they were able to put it together on a weekend where not too many people kept all the cylinders lit. They were going to have to go ahead and have to have some driving done. That deal he had late in the race where he put it in a little deep, got that 008. He brought that Stormbreaker axe to the start line and chopped the tree down. That was pretty impressive. He went out there and got one for his guys. Just all around good win for him. And it's nothing wrong with the APB. You put an APB out for him, and we found him. Boom.
You're right.
The funny thing is, you put an APB out. The guy's got 4 wins on the year. That's twice as much as anybody else. He's points leader. I mean, he ain't going nowhere.
He was taking a break.
Yeah, he's taking a little break. Mike, going back on Matt Hagan, talking about the 008, Dujane just mentioned it. We were talking about that in the media center. Long tree, but right there, you had some thoughts on that 008 reaction time.
Yeah, I was telling you, I said he didn't see that. I said it was a long tree. He just went. He got lucky. And on the top end, he said he got a little bit of luck. He said he rolled in a little bit. And he was a little bit of luck. I said, yeah, you didn't see that. Yeah, Matt Hagan did not become Erica Enders all of a sudden. That didn't happen.
That's a good one.
Oh, man. Well, let's now take a look at Matt Hagan's highlights from the day. Number 1 qualifier in the first round, taking on Chris King. Chris King could not make the call, and Matt Hagan, 404 with the win at 312. He clicks off a little early, a little problems down track, but no problem as he has a single. Then the round number 2, another single. Competition by only 14 cars showing up. Clicks it off early again, 428, 232. But then the semifinals, this is where it gets big time right here. It's Ron Capps in the Toyota taking on Matt Hagan in a Dodge. 008 reaction time for Matt Hagan. Top end. He's going to get the win. 410 with the 7 at 303 to Ron Capps' 405 at 308. Heck of a hole shot right there for Matt Hagan as he moves into the final round. You see Tony Stewart right there. He actually lost in the final round of their regional race in Columbus, I believe, the day before, but makes it out to Denver, Colorado. On the other side of the ladder, he's going to take on Alexis DeJoria. First round, Alexis DeJoria taking on Chad Green. And I'll tell you what, she's going to get the round win right here. Good run, 408.9, 314. DeJoria in round number 2, taking down Chad Green in the LRS Mustang. Then right here, it's Cruz Petragon, Alexis DeJoria. Pedal Fest, great round right here. Alexis smokes the tires first, then Cruz. Cruz gets out of it. He's done. Alexis gets the round win, 481.8, 224. Says she had road rage in that Nitro Funny Car. The semifinals is the battle of the Toyotas. J.R. Todd, Alexis DeJoria, another great drag race. Both cars are cylinders out. J.R. Todd getting squirrely at the top end. Alexis, she survives, 424.5, 301. So it's Matt Hagan in the Dodge taking on Alexis in the Toyota. Let's take a look at that final round right now.
Remember this moment. The last 2 in the history of the Dodge Power Brokers Mile High Nationals. Hagan, 413, 304 miles an hour. After the mountain beat him up and beat him up and beat him up, he came here in 2021 and finally conquered the mountain.
Matt, you have been racing with purpose off and on this track this weekend. What will that Wally represent?
It's massive. I mean, the last Wally here, my mom's birthday weekend, you know, all these fans out here, this is a Dodge event. It's a Dodge trophy. It doesn't get any better. We won the 2 Tasty deal, #1 qualifier. Dickie Venables is a bad man. He's a badass. And all my guys, they do a great job. I can't be here without my guys. So thank you. And thank you to all these fans that showed up and showed out. Woo! Yeah!
Matt Hagan gets the win, 4th win of the season, 47th of his career, and a flat-out butt kicking on the field here at Nitro Funny Car. What's up, Dave?
Let's see how observant you all are. What?
You blanked out. You got to say that again.
Blanked out.
Oh, did I? What happened every one of those runs that we just watched?
He dropped the cylinder every time.
Put a hole out.
600 foot on the left-hand side.
Yep.
They had the exact same tune-up in that car all weekend. They were just like, whatever. Puts one out, just run it. Gets to the finish line, and it don't go up in smoke. Do it.
Yep. And that was a big round win against Capps. Capps, in his last 4 races, he's been like, I think it's like 8-3 round win-loss record. And he's got a runner-up and a win within those last 4 races coming into this race. So, you know, Capps has been pretty good on the year coming into this thing. He was 17-8 round win-loss record. So that was a big round win, especially the way they were winning. Like you said, putting out holes consistently.
And it was about 600 foot every time.
Yeah.
600 foot, boom, you see it light up, and there he goes. Just right on to the finish.
It's crazy.
Like I said, pretty much flat-out butt kicking from Matt Hagan this weekend, but in the final round, taking on Alexis DeJoria. Yes, a little late in the final round, but she wasn't going to win anyway based off Matt Hagan's ET. But
she gave him a 10.
Yeah. Trying to be a little light.
Nice.
Trying to be nice. Just being nice. But
man, I thought it was a bracket race. I'm like, all right, there goes Hagan. Let's see if she can catch him.
I don't know if you can call it a butt kicking over the weekend. I mean, yeah, he qualified #1, but he only had to beat 2 cars on Sunday.
I mean, you know, you talk about it. #1 qualifier, Mission Foods win, just all together, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of body shots.
389 Friday night, you know, almost a track record, you know, 100th off the track record. So, I mean, strong car. But going off Alexis, though, you know, aside from this weekend, her performance all year long, I would say she's the best car in Nitro Funny Car to not have won yet. But I feel like a win is coming.
I agree with you on that. And it's a combination of things. Sometimes the car isn't there, and then sometimes she isn't there. She's late. So, okay, she's late a lot, but at some point that's got to get better.
But before you like backtrack on this, there are numbers to prove it. Alexis's 4 reaction times on Sunday were 126, 153, 107, and 140.
Yeah,
she never had to owe anything like.
Yeah, that's late.
So
That's sleeping.
I mean, she, and compared to the field, you can't do that these days.
And when she does try, she goes red.
Yes, a little bit. Sometimes
it's a little
Got
like
that Angel thing going.
Yeah. I can see that too. Yeah,
and it's not harping on her or saying she's good or bad or anything along those lines. I mean, those are just the numbers. That's what popped up on four runs on race day, and you can't do that.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of times this season that they've had a really good car, and the car has been there. She just hasn't been there, and then there's sometimes the car isn't there. So, but I do agree with you. I think she's probably the next best car that just simply hasn't won yet. But gonna have to get it together on the starting line for sure. If she's going to want to get a win, because I mean, you got to go through the gauntlet of individuals that are out there. Matt, Bob, Robert, John, you know what I mean? Even JR, they're starting to get it together a little bit, especially him as a driver. So there's a lot you're going to have to go through, and that's got to improve. Numbers don't lie.
Yeah, and you mentioned JR Todd. Good to see that car coming around back-to-back semifinal appearances for that DHL team. Let's now take a look at the Funny Car ladder.
Coletta cars making it that far, so that was a good day for Team Coletta.
Absolutely,
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it
for
really
sure,
was.
for sure. Dave, any other matchup you want to point out in Nitro Funny Car?
After Matt Hagan and Chris King caught my eye, 14 Funny Cars showed up for the last run at the mountain, which kind of sucks. But they haven't had a lot of good turnouts there lately. Terry Haddock, I was surprised that he even made first round after that huge boomer in qualifying. It was nice to see Steven Densham come out and be part of the field. But the big matchup, I think, was how about Tasca out first round? How about, and those are guys that, you don't really see as first round losers. But the way that this 14 car ladder played out, you had some unusual matchups play out. And, of course, you got round two again, seems like for the 12th race year, John Force and JR Todd.
Yeah, they've been seeing each other a lot this year.
Yeah. How about that round two matchup between Robert Height and Ron Capps?
Yeah, that was a heck of a matchup right there. And when I was in the crowd for that one, the fans were really into that matchup. But there was a guy who was actually a Ron Capps fan and a guy that was a Robert Height fan. He had a Robert Height t-shirt on, and they were kind of jawing back and forth at each other in the stands. That was pretty good to see. Also, want to give a shout out to the fans. I mean, they were into it all weekend long. You could tell they're very knowledgeable, and they showed up all 3 days. Packed house on Friday, sellout crowd. Packed house on Saturday, sellout crowd. Packed house on Sunday, sellout crowd. Kind of ruined my thing because I was trying to record everything that weekend, but I just couldn't get a good view because there's people all in my shot. So just want to give a shout out to all the fans. Man, they came out in droves. So shout out to them.
And before we beat on Alexis too much, I know you're going to get to this point. She's up to third in points now. She picked up 2 spots. Yeah. So
isn't that crazy?
It is. Yeah. That's just how upside down Funny Car's been this year.
Yeah.
But she's been in 3 final rounds this year. She was in the 4-wide final at Charlotte. She was in the final at Bristol. She's in the final here at Denver.
Yeah, and that's why I said, that's the best car so far this year that hasn't won yet. And I feel like, if they could just clean up a little bit of stuff, they will be in the winner's circle for sure. Not long from now. Mike, hot racetrack. We'll see. It's kind of weird. Usually I'm used to I know we've done it before, but I'm used to the Sonoma Seattle, kind of deal. Now it's Seattle Sonoma, so that's gonna be pretty cool right there. Mike, any other matchup in Nitro Funny Car you want to talk about, or I can think of or want to point out?
No, you guys already touched on it. And you guys pretty much already touched on it. Was the Tasca Cruz matchup. That was one I was looking forward to seeing. I was talking to you in Denver over the weekend. Cruz, who I had a strong prediction of when we spoke in Gainesville, where it was going to be a top 4 car. And I don't know what happened. I mean, we are in Denver, and Cruz, talk about an APB. I mean, gee whiz.
Well, I can explain it a little bit.
Help me out.
I've got a little knowledge on the situation. Earlier in the season, they were making big horsepower and having a hard time of scaling it back. I made it clear in Gainesville, if he didn't have to lift because he was next to the wall, he would have ran what John ran and better. They just haven't been able to put on the track. Now, late in this season, I don't know what the heck's going on. They can't get out of their own way. Whether it's mistakes, by the crew, missing things. And I thought after they had that lucky round in first round, I thought, okay, they've got to be able to put together a decent pass. They were at least making some kind of decent passes early in qualifying. So it's a combination of things. But they really, I've said it before, this car is probably would be one of the top 4, top 5 fastest cars out there, and it just cannot be applied to the racetrack. You know what I mean? It is really mind-boggling to me what they have over there, and the fact that it just still has not come together, and it seems to have, it gets worse every week now instead of better.
Yeah, you're right. It's not like you can see the progress of it moving forward. It just seems like it's, I mean, like I said, Gainesville, they started off pretty well. They went to Pomona, I believe, qualified number 1, and we kind of figured, okay. And the way that we ended last season, they said they figured out some things. So, like I said, the Gainesville show, I was like, okay, I had Cruz as the top 4 car. That was my prediction this year. I mean,
I did too.
And you look at JC as crew chief, he's always been pretty consistent. Whether it was the Make-A-Wish deal with Tommy Johnson Jr. or whatnot, he's always been consistent. Maybe not the quickest, but consistent. They're not quick or consistent now. I mean, they're just.
And I want to think that they're still dealing with some of those things, and I think the problem likely lies somewhere within the clutch pack and in the car itself. You know what I mean? Something's not marrying up there, and the amount of horsepower they're making, trying to scale that back and still trying to catch up, with the clutch pack, it's not coming together. And I really think that's where the problem lies. I do still think they make big horsepower. I do think they could be one of the top 4 or 5 cars, but at the end of the day, like you said, it's not being put out there. And I think that's somewhere in that realm is where they're having issues, and the gremlins just keep coming up and biting them. And I think a little bit of youth as far as the crew as well, because they've had some mistakes that were crew mistakes that weren't caught before they got to the line. So, a lot of things like that can get you. So they've got to find a way to kind of rally and become a little bit more consistent. And maybe it's, you got to start over and take a step back a little bit and work your way up to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're getting out the bugs now for the countdown. They're going to be in it. Everyone's going to be in it.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, there's
the thing that with this whole participation countdown, they needed a weekend like Denver if there wasn't, because even 80 points ahead of Blake Alexander, he's 10th, and Blake Alexander's 80 points back. He didn't even go to Denver in 11th. Right. But that tells you, Blake Alexander, like we were just talking earlier, he's running a part-time season. Cruz has been out there for the full ride. They're only 80 points apart. Yep. Blake's got to win. Cruz doesn't. Whose fault is that? If Blake made it into the top 10 over Cruz, not running all the races, maybe they just, put it together better.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's 5 races towards the countdown. So let's see if Cruz, Petragon, John Collins, and the rest of the Snap-on Dodge team could turn it around. And they'll have to turn it around fast. You talk about points. Let's look at the point standings in Nitro Funny Car right now. Matt Hagan, he's still on top, 45 markers up on Ron Capps. Like you mentioned, Alexis Ajoria, she is now 3rd, 121 out. Robert Hyde 4th, and Chad Green, with his first round loss, still rounds out the top 5. We just mentioned Cruz Petragon. He sits 10th. Blake Alexander with that win, coming off that win in Norwalk, he's 11th. He actually needs to actually make his way into the top 10 to make the countdown, because he has not run all the races this season. So that is your points in Nitro Funny Car, following the 2023 Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals from Thunder Mountain. But in the end, Matt Hagan gets the win, 4th win of the season, 47th of his career, number 1 qualifier. He wins the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. He closes out, the Dodge driver closes out the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals in style.
It's only fitting that the Dodge driver at the Dodge race would be the
high performer of the race.
High performer of the race.
We're gonna get sued, man. We're gonna get sued if we say that.
I'm not gonna get sued. It ain't on my channel. That's all right.
What are you talking about? This is streaming live on your channel.
Is it? Oh,
yes.
Crap. All right.
I'll be your channel too.
That's funny.
But Matt Hagan is your high performer of the race of the 2023 Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals. Congratulations to Matt. And I want to say this also. Speaking of Matt Hagan, so I was in a small little room in the media center. It's kind of. So the media center, it's 2 rooms, but there's also a side little small room where you should go in. I was in there by myself, talking to Dave, trying to figure out stuff for the show. Well, Matt Hagan, his girlfriend, and their PR people walks in, and I basically get trapped in a room because they're doing a show for Speed Freaks. And so I'm listening to their whole deal with Speed Freaks and Matt Hagan, and the way he's able to break down or run behind the wheel of a Nitro Funny Car, we don't give enough credit to how good he really is and what he actually knows. Because he was talking about how in Denver with the thin air, the cars actually, the front end of the cars actually get really light once they get up towards the top end because there's no air right there pushing down on the cars. And I was like, man, that is the way he was able to break that down and everything. I was like, this dude, Matt Hagan, he's the real deal. So just want to give a shout out to Hagan. He is one of the best to ever do it, one of the all-time greats, and another big-time win here this weekend in Denver.
Definitely shout out to Matt.
Yeah.
Good performance. Another win for Tony Stewart Racing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you guys all for tuning in to this special edition of Inside the NHRA. We are breaking down the 2023 Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals, the final race up on Thunder Mountain, Vandermeer Speedway. We've recapped Top Fuel Eliminator. Clay Millican, he gets the win, 5th win of his career. Had the run of the weekend during qualifying with his 379. 2nd win of the season, 2nd most in the class. And like we just talked about it, Matt Hagan, 4th win of the year, 47th of his career, the Dodge driver closes out the Dodge Nationals in style. So Top Fuel's in the books, Funny Cars in the books. Dave, it's that time in the show. Sportsman, break it down for us, man.
Yes, we do need to break it down. So we've got a full complement of sport this weekend. Josh Herman picks up his first career win in Top Dragster. John Breimer, I think it is actually, back-to-back wins here at Denver in stock, his 7th overall. Super stock goes to Scott Burton. First career win for Norman Brungart in Super Gas. Another first time winner here for Berg. She was up in the winner's circle getting the trophy. Said it's the first thing she ever won. Picked a great time to do it. Dan Smith, first career win in Super Street. Chris Vang in Mountain Motor Pro Stock over Erica Enders, who was running 2 categories of Pro Stock this weekend. Erica and Richard Freeman looked like they had the in their back pocket, but as it turned out, the rest of the competition caught up. The Summit Junior Drag Racing League Shootout, Kyrie Hussey picks up the win there. The Mile High 10-5 Shootout to Tommy Johans, and the Dodge Shootout, which was all of the Dodge Hellcats, to Gerard Richard.
Hey, I'll tell you what, that Mile High 10.5 shootout and Dodge shootout, that was amazing to see in person. I've always watched it on NHRA.TV, but to see it up close and personal, that was definitely great right there. But congratulations to all of our Lucas Oil Sportsman winners from the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals. And like I just mentioned, Top Fuel's in the books, Funny Cars in the books. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's the Factory Hot Rods Pro Stock.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your center console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it in the neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thieves' hope.
Competition Products, your source for hardcore engine parts for street, strip, and oval track. Our free catalog is packed with hundreds of product lines from the best-known manufacturers in the performance industry. Lowest prices guaranteed. Free shipping and handling on all orders over $149 in the continental U.S. Need expert advice? Our knowledgeable staff is just a phone call away. Competition Products, race parts sold by racers since 1970.
Don't get away.
before we get into pro stock, 1 second. One thing I wanted to add on the Sportsman part of it, and you guys were there, so I think you know this too. I think I got the right one. I should have wrote it down in my notes, and I didn't. When Josh Herman won Top Dragster, he is married to Bree Bandemere. Is that correct? That's the driver that won. So that is the first Wally that actually went to the Bandemere family too, as he married into it. So
nice.
that was him, right? Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. I'm like, man, I should have wrote that down, and I did not. But I wanted to add that real quick for the Sportsman. All right, now go ahead.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. But just like in Nitro Funny Car and Matt Hagan, Troy Coughlin Jr. not only wins the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, but he picks up the win on Sunday as well. 4th career win for Troy Coughlin Jr. He picks up the final Pro Stock Wally from the Mile High Nationals. And the story about him, really, Dave, was the reaction times. 002 against Dallas Glenn in the semifinals of the Mission Foods Challenge, then cut a perfect reaction time against Stanfield in the final, and was good on the reaction time all day long on Sunday. Troy Coughlin Jr. deserved and earned this win, took this win at the Mile High Nationals.
In the Pro Stock Challenge, you were saying against Dallas?
Was he 020 or 002?
020. He was 20.
020.
So,
yeah,
okay. Now, I'm glad that you actually let off with his reaction times, because this is why it was really hard not to put Troy Coughlin Jr. as Mopar high performer of the race. So, all right, he made 8 passes this weekend, right? His race day average reaction time was 014. You add in his 020 and his perfect light in the Mission Foods Challenge. Okay. Now, he had 2 other qualifying runs on Friday. Those reaction times, 32. His weekend average over 8 passes was 014. 014 over 8 runs in a Pro Stock car.
Wow.
I mean, the man's lethal on the tree. You give him the power to get it done. I mean, how do you bet against that?
Mm-hmm. And Mike,
hear that another Coughlin.
That's right.
For sure.
That's
and
right.
That was the next person I was going to, is you, Mike Dennis. I want to, ask you, what do you think about Troy Coughlin Jr.'s performance up on the mountain?
You can almost call it dominant from a driver's point of view. The man did exactly what he's paid to do and what he's supposed to do. I mean, he left pretty much first on everyone on race day. He won the Missions Challenge. I mean, he had a great weekend and it was well-deserved. You can't take nothing away from that. I mean, it was a great win for him, and I can't take anything away from it. It was a flawless weekend.
You're definitely correct about that. Let's now take a look at the highlights of Troy Coughlin Jr.'s day. Qualified in the number 4 position. First round, it's a rematch of your Mission Foods final, taking on Aaron Stanfield. 0-12 on the reaction time, 6.9, 3-1, 196. Troy Coughlin Jr. and the yellow and black Jigs Camaro is moving on in round number 2. Then it's Troy Coughlin Jr. and it's Greg Anderson. We're riding along with Greg Anderson. He has problems. He shoves in the clutch. He's done. Troy Coughlin Jr. 6.937. He has a bracket car, 197. Big speed right there as he moves into the final 4. Then it's the teammates, the elite teammates, Erica Enders, Troy Coughlin Jr. Erica Enders coming off the quickest EFI track record at Denver. Well, she's going to get whooped up here in the semifinals, 6.944. It's Erica's 697. Troy Coughlin Jr. goes 197, another big-time speed as he moves into the final round here at Denver. And then the final round, he's going to take on Dallas Glenn, your points leader, who has had the best car all year long. Round number 1, Dallas Glenn took down Chris McGahey, 692 with a 5. Great runner right there at 195. In round number 2, took on his teammate Kyle Koreski, another great run, 693 with a 4, 195. And then in the semifinals, took down Cameron Caruso, another 693. Dallas Glenn had a strong car all day long. You take a look at these reaction times, 048 in the first round, but 018 round number 2 and 029 in the semifinals. So it's two great young drivers facing off in the final round of Pro Stock. It's Troy Coughlin Jr., it's Dallas Glenn. Let's take a look at that final right now.
And they're all down there thinking the same thing. Come on, my guys needs to win this. They qualified 3 and 4. They've been within 100th all day long. Will the starting line tell the tale? 4 thousandths difference in reaction time. 4 thousandths at this end. And 100th and a half at that end. Troy Coughlin Jr. for the win. 6.933, 196.
Troy Coughlin just said, man, that was a heck of a race. And there's been a lot of conversation about Dallas Glenn and Matt Harford. Why is your name firmly back in this discussion?
Geez, we got a long way to go till November, but Elite Motorsports, we're not going to give up. That's for darn certain. But Mark Ingersoll, all the boys in the lounge, everybody on this Jegs.com White Castle machine have this thing flying, and our people make this possible, and we love everybody.
Tough break for Dallas Glenn. Makes his worst run of the day in the final round, and it cost him as Troy Coughlin Jr. gets the race win, excuse me, 4th win of his career. And so I got to ask you, Dave, I mean, like I said, Dallas Glenn has the best car so far this season. A lot of talk has been Matt Hartford, Derek Kramer, but Troy Coughlin Jr., man, as far as the championship, he's right up there with them.
Putting his name back in the mix, moved from 4th to 3rd in points. Dallas Glenn did unofficially, by my calculations anyway, lock himself into the countdown this particular weekend. Even if he doesn't go to the rest of the races, he cannot fall out of the top 10. So he is your first countdown clinch. But yeah, Troy's going to be in the Kramer, who had a lot of guys had an uncharacteristically bad weekend this weekend. But Troy, they can run good. They can run good in the fall weather too. And his starting line reaction times this weekend, which is, to me, is putting on a clinic to the rest of the class.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's now take a look at how it all played out in pro stock here today. We talked about the Final Four. Erica Enders, Troy Coughlin, Cameron Caruso, Dallas Glenn, a big-time Final Four. Good to see Kyle Koreski making some good runs this weekend as well. Kind of struggled at the beginning of the weekend, but kind of came on strong at the end. But Dave, going to you again, we got to talk about that track record EFI track record ET from Erica Enders, 691.5 in the first round. Shatters it right there. They came close on Friday night qualifying, but they finally eclipsed it on Sunday, final eliminations.
It was good to see that in the conditions that they had for first round, that the guys were picking up as much as they did. And when she ran that first round, I kind of thought, well, this might be another, Erica day. And I was surprised that when she went up against Troy, I mean, Troy left first on her and ran her to the finish line. So, and unfortunately, she had a problem in the Mountain Motor Pro Stocks too, with getting to the final there, and that gave a bad weekend all around results wise for Erica, but still moved up past Greg Anderson in the point standings. So that was a plus for her. She went up to what does that put her from 7th to 6th now? But Dallas is so far out of everybody with all of his round records. I mean, the field is pretty well packed, close, just as close from 2nd to 11th as it is 1st to 2nd. That's how good Dallas has been this year. But, I mean, in general, shout out to the entire pro stock field, because we're talking about reaction times, and this just on race day on Sunday. The entire class average, even with Fernando's 127 light first round, which was the worst light of the day, and Matt Hartford's 067 against him, which was the second worst light of the day, the whole class reaction time average was 034. And if you take that 127 out, it was an 030. 030. That's the field. Everybody. Mm-hmm. When as close as these cars are, you win with your left foot just as much on Sunday these days. So it's really, this class has turned into more of a driver's race than we've ever seen. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out going forward.
Yeah,
for sure. You got to do, Janae.
I agree with you on that, because I mean, if you look at the losses that Troy's had, it's not like, to say that he's back in the conversation. The guy has been in the top 5 the whole entire time, so he's been part of this conversation the whole time. He's had to face guys like Matt Hartford, Derek Kramer, Jerry Tucker. He's had to go against Greg Anderson. These are tough cars that he's facing, that he's taken some losses to. So it's not like, he's losing to has-beens. This class is tough. I believe he's always been here. His worst qualifying was in Bristol. He was 10th, 9th in Charlotte. But, they've got it. It's just, this class is just so good, man. And you got to show up every week. If you don't show up every week, and you don't win it with your left foot half the time, you're going out early, because there's nobody giving you anything. You're going to have to go out there and take it. And I think Red Racer said it best. I mean, you can't argue with what's going on there. 6 different winners in 9 races. you know, there's plenty of parity in this class, and it was nice. I don't know if I was seeing it correctly. You guys were there, but it did appear, even though there were people that did get up after Nitro, it still seemed to be pretty packed for Pro Stock and Pro Stock.
All weekend long, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, all classes. Like I cannot tell you.
They were in the stands.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to
sorry,
leave.
man. Because if you left, you weren't gonna get your seat back. If you were in like general admission, you weren't gonna get your seat back. So you had to stay there unless you were reserved. Yeah, it was a no deal. You mentioned winning it with your left feet, and Dave mentioned that he thought it was going to be one of those days for Erica Enders. Like I said, track record, EFI track record, round number 1, 691.5. Well, she goes 001 in round number 2 against Jerry Dawn Tucker, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is about to be a long day for the field. Of course, fell off in the semifinals, but it just goes to show, man, it is very tough in pro stock. And so I think we should mention now, and I don't know if he wants me to mention, but for everybody watching, Dujane Bland is making his Competition Plus Power Hour debut tomorrow night, filling in for the Monday morning racer. And the only reason why I bring that up is because we're trying to, I probably shouldn't be saying this live on air too, but one of the probable guests for tomorrow night is Troy Coughlin Jr., and I hope he's on the show. And the reason why is because, have you guys seen those Dodge Power Brokers Mile High Nationals winners hats, the red ones that they're wearing?
Yeah.
Really great looking hats. I asked Troy to get me one, and he said he'll get me one. So I want to get him on the show to put the pressure on him because I want one of those hats. But congratulations.
Well, if he is, you better hit him with my stats and tell him how good he was on the reaction timer.
I will do that.
And we'll make sure that you get the credit.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, no, of course. Yeah. Always got to give him the credit. Yeah. Good comment right here from Walt Walker. With the reaction time so tight, I'm not sure you can win with your left foot, but you could definitely lose it. And he's definitely correct about that.
Was it mentioned anywhere that he was clinched? No, not that I've seen, but basically the way ESPN the math works out, because Pro Stock is now skipping the next 2 races. They are not completing the Western Swing. Right. They only have Pro Stock and Pro Stock Motorcycle 452 points left available. And the way that you always figured is you go back to 11th and you start from there, and then you go to the 10th place car. Well, 11th and 10th can't both get 450. They can't get max points. So you go 452 from 11th. Then you go to the 10th place car and you go, okay, well, the next best that he could do would be 418 points. And you keep working your way down because not everybody can have the max points. And by the time you get to the top, you run out of points. And Dallas Glenn is not going to fall out of the top 10 at this point. Not that he was going to anyway. I mean, he's only got to show up at one more race and he's going to be solidified. But I'll give it to him. He's clinched. He's made it. In another couple of races, probably the top half of the field will be locked in. Again, it doesn't matter. It's only that they're not going to fall out of 10th. They're all going to make it anyway. I think we're going to have a 16-car Pro Stock countdown because 16 cars have made every race this year, which is a shame that, it's a shame in one way that you eliminate the top 10 battle, but I guess in another way, it's interesting that once we get to start the countdown, it's a 16-car field for the championship. I mean, you could go from 1st to 16th after first round.
Which is
every
why,
position matters.
Which is why it probably wasn't, quote, mentioned, because there was nothing clinched.
It doesn't matter.
There was nothing clinched.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing clinched.
Yeah,
they're all going to make it.
In the fact that even if he don't go to the rest of the races, he ain't falling out of the top 10. So Dallas will point his way in one way or the other. But in the end, does it matter? No. Does NHRA recognize that? And they're kind of like taking away from the countdown drama, possibly. But to me, I thought it was cool. It was important, so I mentioned it. That's all.
No, it's no knock on you at all. It was just someone asked, was it the NHRA even mention it? And I'm like, well, what are they going to say?
No.
I mean, there's nothing to mention. He's already in. Everyone is. Chris McGahe's in.
Right. And to Red Racer 85 to say that Pro Stock is born. This is the 145th consecutive win for a Camaro in Pro Stock, which is extending their record streak in any class of any time, in any series. So you got to give it to him that. Props for that. And if you've been following me on social media, you know that the last non-Camaro win happened at Denver, 2016. Alan Johnson, the only EFI win that was for a Dodge, non-Camaro.
That was awesome, too.
How about that? Speaking of Dodges, so with Troy's 4th win, he ties another Dodge, famous Dodge driver, V. Gaines, as well as Alex Laughlin on the winners list. And Troy did set top speed of the meet. It was the third time that he's done that, which ties in with the likes of, and I always like to use this opportunity to bring out guys who we don't hear about, Bruce Allen, Jerry Ekman, Stevie Johns, Ricky Smith, Alex Laughlin, top speed of the meets. Now, that also ties him for 34th all time. And when you consider only 79 drivers have done it, it's not hard to believe that at the top, I mean, Warren Johnson's got 221 of them. So Bob Glynn's got another 103. So you got to get quite a ways up there, quite a bit to make your way up to the top. But there's a lot of guys that have 3 or less too that are at the bottom. So it's a very hard thing to do.
Also, I'm going to give a shout out to Dave W. The work you did on social media this past week leading up to the final NHRA Mile High Nationals, bringing back these really great moments, these tales from the mountain that you posted on your social media, stuff that nobody's ever talked about or even thought about, pulling that history and bringing it to the forefront. Got to give a shout out to you. And thank you for all you do for the sport of NHRA drag racing.
Absolutely. He put on a clinic this week.
Yes,
it was phenomenal.
Great job.
Yes,
Thank you. It's fun. I enjoy reliving the past.
Me too.
Because you don't know where you're going, but you always know where you've been.
Yep.
Exactly. Just put up the pro stock points a second ago. Like we just said, Dallas Glenn, he clinches technically. He has 302 markers up on Matt Hartford. Aaron Stanfield rounds up the top 5. Your winner, Troy Coughlin Jr. is 3rd. Derek Kramer 4th. Kyle Koreski rounds out the top 10. Any final thoughts on pro stock, guys, before we move on?
Can you bring that points picture back up? Right. When's the last time we've been this late in the season and we don't see Greg Anderson or Erica in the top 5? I mean, that's
probably going
that's
back
crazy.
to like 2014, 13, something like that. Yeah, you got to go a decade back. It's been a while.
I mean, to see neither of them in the top 5 at this point in the season, that's wow.
Yeah. We're seeing a change in the guard in pro stock, and I love it. Seeing guys like Hartford and Glenn and Coughlin and Kramer and Stanfield, I'm liking it. I'm liking what we're seeing right now.
Yes.
We'll see, but this is the part that melts it down a little bit. We're seeing a changing of the guard, but it's the same engine builders. It's only 2 engine builders.
Yeah.
So I mean, essentially, they may not be in the top 5, but all their teammates are. They all come out the same shops. It's just amazing though that neither of those 2 cars are in the top 5, but their teammates are. It's
well, and some props to the Frank Iaconio Racing Engines cars with the Quadras, and the McGahays are both doing their program. So I mean, you do have 4 different people out there, but yes, the top contenders are Elite and KB for sure. But
yes,
the big thing is we're talking about the changing the guard. Let's see what happens when the countdown ends, because Erica and Greg seem to always walk away with the big check at the end of the year. They ain't over yet.
I mean, Bo Butner gets 11th. That's crazy as well. I didn't think Bo Butner would be that far down, but yeah, I believe he's 11th at this moment. That's coming from that camp, but that horsepower supplied, I wouldn't think Bo would be 11th. But
yeah,
especially after what we saw from him earlier in the season, I really thought that he was going to be, a name that and a thorn in everybody else's side after what we saw, especially at Gainesville. It is surprising to see where he is right now. But when you look at all the other cars ahead of him, I mean, you kind of see why too. Those guys have been going rounds and qualifying well, and they're just beating each other up right now, really.
Yeah,
final round of Phoenix.
Yeah, and when you look at Bo, and then you look at how Erica was pretty much a no-show for the first 4 or 5 races this season, and yet Bo is on 11th, and Erica, I believe, it's 6th or 7th. It's like, well, Bo, I mean, she gave you a head start by a lot. And
those early round losses, man, they kill you. They really do. This is still until they go to the NASCAR format of win and you're in. This is still a round win game, and right now, Dallas Glenn and Derek Kramer and Matt Hartford and Troy Coughlin now are just junior are putting it down.
Yeah,
for sure. But in the end, Troy Coughlin Jr. gets the win, 4th of his career, and he takes home the final trophy from Vandermeer Speedway and the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals. Thank you guys all for tuning in to this special edition of Inside the NHRA. If you're just now joining us, we've recapped Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock. Like I just mentioned, Troy Coughlin Jr. got the win in Pro Stock. Matt Hagan scored the final trophy in Nitro Funny Car from Vandermeer, 47th career win, 4th of the year, and Clay Millican. His mama called him Clay. His mama named him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay. He gets the win in Top Fuel Eliminator, 5th win of his career. and second of the season, second most in the class, only behind points leader Justin Ashley. So top fields in the books, funny cars in the books, pro stocks in the books. Let's now cap off the show, you guys, with pro stock motorcycle, the scooters. This man dominated to start the season. 3 straight #1 qualifiers, 3 straight wins, and we're like, hey, give the championship trophy to him already. He's got it already. Then kind of went through a little bit of adversity. Lost in the final round to Steve Johnson, turned on the red light. Lost in the first round of the Mission Foods Challenge the next race, had a red light. Lost in the second round the following race there. Well, actually the same race. We're thinking, oh my God, we got to panic. We're panicking. Well, hey, there's no panic. Didn't qualify #1 this weekend, but he is back in the winner's circle. Gage Herrera bounces back, 4th win of the season, and he's looking strong once again. Does it on the mountain.
Hey, all's right with the world. Gages and Vance and Hines are back in victory lane again, so that's what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate that he couldn't keep his #1 streak alive. Hector Arana stunned everybody with that 704. I mean, everybody, and goes out there. I mean, it was his first #1 qual in, since Las Vegas in
2018.
I had it in front of me and I lost it. 2018, yeah, October 2018. So 4.5 years since he's been #1. But I got to say, for Gage, we were kind of a little, I wouldn't say hard on him, but it was kind of like, man, they're losing it on the tree and stumbling with those red lights. I mean, he brought his performance right back. He got his riding right back on the game here, and succeeded and conquered the mountain, like you had already mentioned. 4th win on the season. Obviously, that puts him in his 4th career win, which now that's going to tie him with other drivers: John Smith, Gino Scali, Ryan Schnitz, Chris Rivas, and Matt Cadera for 21st all time. Now, that doesn't sound like 21st, but when you consider that only 48 riders have won in pro stock, and he's already in the upper half of the field after just 4 wins in the same season. I mean, the kid's putting together a dream season, and it'll be interesting to see how the motorcycles play out going to the rest of the Western Swing. We know what to expect from him in Sonoma, but it's going to be interesting seeing here how Seattle goes. And now Gage has the opportunity to do something nobody in pro stock motorcycle has ever done, and that is sweep the swing. So he's got something to look forward to now.
Man, those are some straight early to mid 2000s names right there, and early 2010s names. Matt Gadara, Chris Rivas, Ryan Schnitz. Like, dang, that's
Gino Scali. Yeah,
Gino Scali.
Whose last wins came. John Smith, his last win was back in '98. Gino Scali's in '03. Ryan Schnitz in '06, and Chris Rivas '08, and Matt Gadara '09. And now add Gage Herrera to that list. So, and he's. He's working his way up. He's still got a way to go to get to the top 10, but, a couple more wins at the end of this season, he could be top 15 easy.
Dujanay, we talked about Gage and how dominant he was at the beginning of the season. Then, just stuff happens, and, a couple red lights, and, just came up short at the last race that they were at. But for this young man to have kind of like to go through a little bit of that adversity and to bounce back the way he did, what does that say about him, man?
It really just shows, where he's come up through the ranks. He's ridden bikes harder than these things, a lot more squirrely than this. He's been there and done that. He's racing some really tough classes, and it really just says what he is, where he is in between the years mentally. He doesn't, you realize that, sometimes it doesn't always go the way that you want it to go, but he's very well understanding of what he's capable of, and he just kind of reeled it back in, woo-sawed, went back out there and did what he does best. So it shows that he's not going to be easily rattled by making a mistake, because we see so many out here that they turn on one red light and it just seems to like steamroll and fall out of control with turning on those lights. So I'm not surprised by that because I have seen him race in the other divisions that he was in before he got here. So, you know, it really just speaks to how well groomed and how poised this kid really is.
And he mentioned he's not going to get rattled. So when he won the race, I asked him in the media center, I'm like, hey, so you had a big time second round matchup with Matt Smith. And we saw what Matt Smith did against Hector Rana Jr. in the first round of Mr. Foods Challenge, going up there and putting on both lights and then backing out and then, you know, just trying to get in Hector Rana Jr.'s head. So I said, hey, you know, for you, how did you kind of stay focused and stay locked in and not try to play in Matt Smith's games? I don't remember if he did anything on the starting line, but he basically just said, he goes, Matt Smith knows he's not going to be able to rattle me because from the scene I've come from, I'm poised and I know what I'm doing. So just goes to show right there. Yeah, Gage Herrera will not be phased. And also, if you guys will check out Mike Dennis's qualifying recap, he actually had a great interview with Matt Smith, and we're going to get into that a little bit because I know Mike Dennis is very passionate about you know, Suzuki's and Beals, so we'll get into it in just a little bit. But let's now take a look at the highlights of Gage Herrera's day. First round, taking on Chris Bostic. And a monster run, 7.098 at 187. That is just 1 thou slower than the old track record previously by Matt Smith at 7.097. Strong run from Gage Herrera in round number 1. Then the second round, it's that second round matchup we was talking about against Matt Smith. 0.22 for Matt Smith, but an 0.12 for Gage Herrera. He was ready to go. 7.143, 186. Gage Herrera is moving on into the semifinals. Final 4. Then it's two young rookies, two young men in the pro stock motorcycle class. It's Gage Herrera and it's Chase Van Zandt. And what a great run this was right here. Gage Herrera, another strong run, 7.109, 187 to Chase Van Zandt, 7.16.6 and 187. Gage Herrera gets the round win and he moves into another final round. As you see, Andrew Hines, he is loving it right there. In the final round, he's going to take on Angie Smith. Angie Smith qualified number 4. Took down Gianna Evaristo. She couldn't make the run in the opening round. Angie Smith, 7.18.7, 187. In the second round, took down Gage Herrera's teammate on a hole shot in the second round. 7.21 with the 7 at 186. To Eddie Krawick's quicker but losing 7.17.6 at 187. And then in the semifinals, took down the best bike all weekend long, Hector Rana Jr. in the semifinals. Hector Rana had a problem. Angie Smith sails on through. 7.21.7, 187. So it's Angie Smith and it's Gage Herrera final round. Let's take a look at that final right now. If I can find it.
The final 2 pro stock motorcycles in mile high history. Red light start. Angie 003 red and a 710 exclamation point for Gage Herrera. That bike today has been stunning. For Mission Foods, Vance and Hines, Gage Herrera adds his name to the list of people that have won on the mountain on Vance and Hines motorcycles.
Andrew Hines is right there cheering you on. He was the first to give you a fist pump at the starting line, and you've been very honest with yourself about the mistakes that you have made. Describe the mental toughness it took to get that Wally.
Oh, it took a lot, you know. I put a lot of pressure on myself after the last 2 races. You know, I had a little bit of bad luck, you know, and to be able to bounce back from that and get the win here at Denver, you know, it's the last race here, unfortunately. It's a very beautiful facility. Hate to see it go, but, you know, the whole Van Size Mission Suzuki team, you know, they worked their butts off. And after Friday, you know, we had to put our heads down and get after it. And I can't thank Andrew and the whole team enough. So glad. Thank you.
Gage Herrera is back in the winner's circle, 4th win of the year, 4th of his career. And Dave, I saw he's about to say something. What's up?
Oh, I just think it's great. And I was, you know, as you were going through the stats and, you know, how Hector Rana Jr., I should say, season is going. I've been working on one of my side projects is cataloging these old races and round records and stuff like that so I can have all these statistics. And Pro Stock Motorcycle is one of the ones I've been kind of diving in lately. And it's hard to believe it's been over a decade since we used to have, and I don't know if you've been a long time, Hector's versus the Harleys. And when Hector sees Andrew and Eddie every week, I feel like now doing well up against a couple wins late last year, coming out with that track record with the win last time out in Norwalk. It might just be Hector Jr. versus Mr. Herrera here as it's coming down to it. I mean, don't look now. He's up to 2nd in points, and it might be an interesting battle between the Aranas and the Vance and Hine team again.
I agree with you on that. Hector is really starting to put it together. They kind of showed a little bit of it earlier in the season. I thought they showed it late last season as well. But yeah, I agree with you on that. That bike's coming on strong. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here in the next couple of races as we get back down to sea level. What those Aranas are going to do. But I'm with you on that, Dave. I think we have a real good probability of seeing this be Vance and Hines against the Aranas again.
And obviously, me and Mike D, we were in Denver this past weekend, and not only did he run that 7:04.7 Friday night, which was a backbreaker, that was cool to see come up on the scoreboard, but he also goes 7:08 in the final qualifying session, another backbreaking run. Mike, just want to get your thoughts overall of Hector Arana Jr.'s performance. Didn't get the win, but still just, great runs up on the mountain in Denver.
All credit to Hector. I mean, they did a phenomenal job, especially with that run they made. As we will later find out, he did not have the best bike on the property. But to you guys' point that it could be the Hectors versus or Hector versus the Vance and Hines team. If history repeats itself, the Hectors tend to buckle under pressure. See, he won a few races last year, but there was no pressure. Right. He wasn't in the points running. He was just, you just kind of run loosely. When the Hectors are put pressure, especially Junior, he's either red or he's late. And if you go back and look at all those runs in 2011, 2012, 08, when they were going against the Vance and Hine bikes, there were times that they had the better bike and they were either red or late. And if it does come to that, if history repeats itself, I'm willing to bet red or late against the Vance and Hines team. That's just
or maybe he knows that, and now he's like, all right, I know what I got to do. That was a decade ago. I'm a more matured, seasoned rider now, and bring it on.
But I'm gonna have to go with what I said earlier when I was talking to Mike earlier. Bill Parcells said, "You are what you are until proven otherwise." So Mike's got some good points on that one, and I'll have to say, you are what you are, Hector, until you prove otherwise. So until we see it, he's a buckler.
And Mike, I don't want to move on too much, but you mentioned, you had a great point. You said that Hector Arana Jr. didn't have the best bike on the property. That really caught my attention. So kind of, you know where I'm going with this. So kind of elaborate on that and talk about, the interview you had with Matt Smith this past weekend. Fill us in, man.
Yeah. So me and Darren both met with Matt Smith this weekend. And to my surprise, which I didn't know, the Buell is still in the trailer. He told us it's sitting up there. And we talked to him after Q1. So I believe Hector went 7:10 in Q1 or something of that nature. And Matt said right then and there, if you go 13, and what did Matt say? He would have been on 08. He would have gone 08 on that Buell in the Q1, which is basically 400 or 500 quicker than Hector. If you watch the interview, he pretty much describes that he's committed to the Suzuki program right now, and that that's kind of where he's at. But he also said, had he known this was the last race in Vandermeer before time, he would have tried to work something out with Suzuki to run his Buell this weekend. I don't know how that would have worked, but I mean, that's what the man said. Darren was right there with me. We know how dominant Matt Smith's Buell is, especially on the mountain. Heck, they increased weight because of his one bike to all other Buell riders last year, which was unfair because, I mean, you let one reactions, brother. Yeah, you let one bike dictate a bunch of other bikes. It wasn't like a bunch of Buells went out there and set the record. It was one bike. NHRA had a knee-jerk reaction.
Yep.
But no, that
as they always do.
Yeah. And interviewing Matt, he's committed to the Suzuki program, and that's where he's at right now. He's helping Mike Salinas' daughter, and he's trying to get that program up and going. But that was basically what I was saying, was the best bike on the property was there. You just didn't see it.
Well, and you answered the question that I was going to ask you, which was, you think Matt Smith was wishing he had his Buell this weekend? Well, you've answered it. Yes, you did. Because field, we probably would have seen a 699 out of his Buell on Friday night.
For real.
Would have been the first in the sixes on.
And that's what I was thinking when I seen the 704. I'm like, I'm probably betting Matt would have probably been 7 flat or 699.
Yeah.
But he did mention that the part of the also change was that they opened up the rule book for the Suzukis coincidentally after Harley left. I mean, and he didn't say that part, but I'm saying that part. He did say they opened up the rule book for the Suzukis, but we all know it coincidentally took place right after Harley pulled out. And that was another reason for his change over to Suzuki. And he's struggling with it right now, but he's getting better. And it'll be interesting. Do I think he'll have enough for the Vance and Hines team by the time the countdown starts? It's hard to say. But we'll see.
I think he will. I think this weekend was a little bit of a telltale sign. And I think every week they've kind of improved. I agree with you. There's going to have to be a little bit of a leap there, especially with the way they were running at sea level. So, you know, I didn't agree with the rule change for I call it the Gage Herrera rule. I didn't like the weight addition either. Again, NHRA punishing teams for working hard in the offseason and doing the testing and doing the things that they need to do. They did it to Matt Smith the year before, and they're doing it to Gage Herrera now. You know, I do think it's a possibility. I think he's making progress, but if we see what we saw earlier in the season from Gage coming out here in the next couple of races, yeah, I think you're right. It's a remain to be seen type of thing there if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, Denver's.
If Matt can't ride it, contractually obligated for the whole team, why not pull it out and put Angie or Gianna on the Buell?
Wasn't Chip Ellis on it earlier this year? Was that a totally different Buell? I thought he was on that Buell early this year.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was Matt only or for his team. That's why I was asking if you asked him that when.
No, I didn't ask him that. Darren was there with me. I don't think I asked him was it just for him or his team, because we know Angie's on the Buell still.
Yeah,
and it's sponsored by Denso. So I don't know if that was a deal where Suzuki came calling Matt and saying, "Hey, we want you over here." I don't really know how that went. All he said was that with them opening up the rules package for the Suzukis, it was kind of like maybe there's a higher ceiling over there once you figure it out.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, if I had a Buell that won me 3 straight championships, was dominant like that, I don't want nobody riding it either. I'm keeping it all to myself.
For real.
I'm keeping that all to myself. But no, a great interview that Mike Dennis had with Matt Smith, and go and check that out on his YouTube channel, RPM HD. Really great, like I said, really great interview from Mike, and it's actually cut up in parts. But I'm gonna send you the full interview, Mike, so you can post it on your YouTube channel, because it is a very good interview and it goes in depth and everything like that. Let's take a look now. Let's take a look now at how it played out in Pro Stock Motorcycle on the day. And want to give a shout out to Angie Smith and Chase Van Zandt. And I'll tell you what, 2 great bikes all weekend long. They were in that 712 to 715 range. So want to give a shout out to those 2 riders right there. But Dave, anybody else you want to shout out in Pro Stock Motorcycle?
Well, I mean, it was hard. I mean, I guess basically shout out to everybody that made the trek up to the mountain, because only 13 bikes did it. Shout out to Matt Smith for still picking up the Mission Foods Challenge. Shout out to everybody for getting down the track the way that they were. Like I say, the guys that came out and came and ran the race. How about that monster matchup, Eddie Craywick Brown? That was a pretty good one right there. As you're looking through the ladder, sad that Gianna couldn't make the call first round. Did they ever say what happened to her bike when you guys were at the track?
I didn't hear anything.
No, I didn't hear anything. And it went to start it and it wouldn't start.
Competition single?
Pretty much. Yeah,
I see you going there. I see you.
Yeah. Well, you know, you just got to ask the question. But yeah,
you saying Team Waters? Is that what you're saying?
No. But you know, shout out to everybody that did come out and make this one a special last race at Bandimere. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of the teams that we've seen full time did not make it. To me, wonder and curious. I have not checked the entry list. I wonder how many are going to Seattle, less or more. Have you guys looked into that?
I have not looked into that.
Well,
so Matt Smith won the Mission Foods Challenge, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
he did over Steve Johnson because Gage wasn't in it. So
that's right. Gage wasn't in it, and he beat who the round before that?
In the first round, you mean?
Yeah.
Hector Rana Jr.
Hector went red against him.
He did what?
Hector went red against him.
He did
Hector
what?
Jr. Yeah. 0-12.
What?
Best bike on the property.
He had the best bike by far, and he did what?
Yep. Although to be
only
fair, Matt
14 bikes at Pacific Raceway. 14 bikes are entered.
14 at Pacific. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, the last couple of mile highs have had not full fields. You have to go back to 2019 when we had motorcycles there. The most that we've ever seen in Denver, you'd have to go back to 2016. 23 bikes showed up. That was also the record bump spot. It took a 7:30 just to make the show.
Definitely. Yeah, Jefferson Central says 14 bikes for Seattle, and then Brian Starr says back-to-back Mission Foods challenges for the Smiths. Small Angie getting the last one, I believe, out in Norwalk.
At Norwalk,
yep. My connection's going to shake, you guys, so kind of take over until I come back around.
There's only 13 funny cars next week, too.
Only 13 funny cars again?
13 funny cars next week.
Ouch. When we were talking about countdown clinched was Gage Herrera, because they're in the same boat as the Pro Stock cars. They do not have a full run down to Indianapolis. They've only got and then we're going to Indy. So Gage, based on points, he is, locked. He is locked. He is going to be in the top 10 no matter what, which, I mean, like you said, it's a mere formality, but he is, there's 452 points left on the table. So even if Gage and Kelly Klontz ran the table, still wouldn't be enough to get around him. And everybody else going rounds too. I mean, this is obviously predicating that everybody gains way more points than Gage, but Gage is comfortably the first clinched driver into the 2023 championship. Hector Jr. up there in second, though. I mean, he's 219 back, but he's kind of the best of the rest at this point. Nobody's really come out this season to me and been, I guess that's what's interesting me the most part of the motorcycle field is nobody. It's been a Gage up. You look at Gator Nationals. Angie Smith was runner up. Matt Smith was runner up. Chip Ellis at Joliet. Steve Johnson on the red light won, and then Steve and Hector in the final, and Angie Smith again. But there's a lot of guys that don't really, they haven't really stepped up. They're over 200 points behind. I mean, the best of the rest. Hector Jr.'s got the most round wins to get him up to second.
Yeah, this is pretty odd. It's been funny in all the categories, really. But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
But if you look at, Gage Herrera in first to Steve Johnson in third is 282 points. If you go back to the top fuel points, first to 10th is 282 points. So,
yeah.
And they've run all the races, or first to 11th, I should say, 288. So, I mean, they haven't contested as many, but the leads that Dallas Glenn and Gage Herrera have amassed in their categories is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah.
Am I back, guys? Am my connection good?
Yeah, you're back. You're good.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for holding it down for me, you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you got it, Mike. You got it.
I was going to say, yeah, you're right. No one's really been able to run with the Bansenheim's team, especially Gage this year. And I mean, that pillar for the last 10 years has been Matt Smith. And with him switching manufacturers, it's just kind of left an open hole there where everyone's just kind of fumbling on top of each other, and Gage is just kind of running away with the thing. Countdown changes everything. We'll see.
Yeah.
What do you think Angel thinks going up to all these races, giving out these mission food challenges, watching her old bike win everything?
Well, that's her fault.
Oh,
I mean, she was red. It was left, right, or red or late.
Yeah.
She can't be bitter.
Right. You lost the ride. You lost the ride because of the way you rode, not for anything else. I mean, you know, when a quarterback plays bad and he's in his last year and they've got somebody on the bench that's better, guess what they do? They send that dude out of there and they put the young cat in because they know that he's better and he can produce, and they'd rather go that route. So, I mean, she kind of lost the ride on her own.
Let's go the other way. How do you feel coming to the race every weekend on allegedly identical equipment, and you're Eddie Krawick, you're fifth in points, 288 back? Now, what are you looking at?
That's wild.
What's going on?
Well, how many times was that Eddie? Because there was a time when Eddie Krawick was much better than his teammate.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the bikes they don't seem to be as equal as you would think, though, for some reason.
No, but I mean, when they were with the Harleys, Eddie had a dominant bike, and it was Andrew who was struggling at times, and Eddie was running away, winning races. And I mean, you just got to take it how it goes.
Yeah, but there was a lot of times when they were the Harleys, there was a lot of Andrew and Eddie finals too.
Yeah,
that's true.
But Eddie still had the better bike back then.
He seemed to always have the better bike.
Yeah,
for the most part. I mean, there were years that
Andrews. Go ahead.
No, I'll let you go.
No, he would come out in Gainesville, and I mean, it's like religiously, Eddie comes out in Gainesville and hits home runs. Like, he comes right out of the gate swinging and hitting big. So, I agree with you on that. It seems like he always had the better bike over Andrew, because he would always come out of the gates fast.
But Andrew's got 6 championships and Eddie's only got 4. That tells you. So
that is wild.
Only 4.
Only 4. Only 4. But it's just interesting to me how that plays out, and that there's such a disparity in the team. It seemed like they got 2. So I think they were kind of sandbagging a little bit, and I'm kind of wondering, as it goes down, and especially after they seen that the weight got put on to Gage and to their combination, basically after Gage was running kind of roughshod over the field, do they back it down and kind of just get it through the next couple for the countdown so they don't get more weight put on them going into the last 6?
Possibly, but here's another question. Did Angel not have the better bike last season over Eddie?
Yeah, she did.
I guess if you were going to say, if you were going to put it that way, I would say yes, in the fact that she had 1, 2, 3, 4 number 1 qualifiers, 5 number 1 qualifiers, 6 number 1 qualifiers, and Eddie had 1. So I would say she had the quicker bike too.
Yep.
So nothing's really changed. You just got a better.
What do we got going on?
Yeah, nothing's really changed. You just got a better rider on that particular bike now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. But it's just amazing to me the way that the parity kind of played out last year. And one rider that I don't know if you covered the motorcycles more, or you talked to the guys or inquired when you were at Denver. Will we see Joey Gladstone back on a bike anytime soon? Or is he just all on with KB Racing now?
That I do not know. And I'll be at Sonoma, so we'll be asking a lot of questions, just on different topics, not just about that, but I will find out.
So Joey just bounced out? Like he's not racing anymore this year?
Particular point, since he's missed races, the only way he could be in the countdown is being in the top 10 in points. And after Denver, he has dropped down to the top 10 after this weekend. He dropped 2 spots. So if he ain't running the rest of the Western Swing, he'd have to come out at Indy and run the deal out to try and get back around Kelly Klontz, Ryan Ayler, and Mark Ingerson, which I'm not saying that he couldn't do that, because they had a bike that was, pretty top-notch performance-wise, it seems like. And towards the end of last year, they were kind of hitting their stride, picked up 3 wins, got a number 1 qualifier at Topeka. And now all of a sudden it's like, in that, is he with KB? He's working on being a crew for the KB team. I know he's out there, I think, with Greg Anderson's car. Is he looking at a step up in pro stock? Maybe he's leaving the 2 wheels behind and he's going to be in a KB Titan car. I'd be curious to know what his plans are going forward, because to step off a successful motorcycle like he did, I'm thinking he's got something in the works.
Yeah. But Gage Herrera was the winner, and he keeps that thing going. And as of right now, we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to close out the show.
In the race for quality, there is no finish line. Jerry Bickle Race Cars is a one-stop chassis shop for drag racing performance parts and race components. For over 50 years, Jerry Bickle Race Cars has been an essential part of racers' plans for building world champion race cars. Our parts department is stocked with every part a racer might need. Log on to jerrybickle.com for more information. We build anything with doors. jerrybickle.com.
So professional, Dujanay. I love the way you did that. I love that. That was awesome. I
try.
I love your analogy. I guess everybody's getting off work now, so just bad connection.
Yeah.
Dujanay, I love the football analogies too that you have for drag racing. I love it. But as being a basketball fan, you could throw some basketball analogies in there also.
I know I've got to do that. It's just that football is like one of my first loves, so it's the X's and O's and all of that just kind of marry together. But I'll work on that.
I got you. Walt Walker says, keep in mind that Gladstone's team owners now are partners with KB Racing.
Okay, well there you go. That would explain some of it too.
Mm-hmm. There you go right there. So, man, what a great show, you guys. Breaking down the final event from Vandermeer Speedway, Thunder Mountain, in the final Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals. Let's start with you, Mike Dennis. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
It's sad to see that track off the schedule. That was my first time there, and it is truly a piece of artwork.
It is
beautiful artwork. It is one of the nicest tracks I've ever seen, and I've been to a lot of racetracks. Seeing it just driving from the freeway, pulling up on it, it's like it's an unbelievable facility, and I can see why there were some people who were not happy that was the last NHRA event there. I mean, Alan Reinhart said he had allergies, but it sounded like he was choked up to me. He told a story on how Denver was essentially the race that gave him his break in doing what he does, his track announcing. So that's just my thoughts. It's going to suck to see that track no longer on the schedule.
Mike, there was a lot of talent there too, huh, Mike, throughout the weekend?
I'm not sure what you
Dujanay, any final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
I want to piggyback off of that. The work that Dave put together this week really brought back a lot of memories, a lot of childhood memories of that track. A lot of cool things went down there, and I'm in agreement with you guys. It's a darn shame that has to go away. And I know that they're talking about bringing another track back, but it's not the same. That track was one of the most unique tracks that you'll ever see ever. I mean, it just had its own thing, and it is pretty sick that it will no longer be on the circuit anymore. But cheers to the memories, and man, this racing season has been hellacious, and to see where it can go in the next couple of races before the next rest of this quarter and into the fourth quarter before we get to the playoffs. Whew, it's going to be a fun ride, I believe. We're going to have a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of good drag racing to watch. So I'm just excited about that too.
And how excited are you about your Competition Plus Power Hour debut tomorrow night, along with your boy right here, man?
It is it's a take back for me. It is truly an honor to be able to be on a show like that. I know what Bobby Bennett has done and built over there. Got a lot of respect for him, and for MMR to reach out to me like that and to consider me to sub in for that show, it is truly an honor and a privilege. So thank you guys.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome tomorrow night. Happy to have you on, and we'll have some fun tomorrow night, man. I can't wait for it. Me and you hosting the
ready.
show. It's gonna be cool.
Keep an eye on them comments, baby. I'll be lighting them up.
Dave, any final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
Yeah, I just pretty much echo everybody else's sentiments. It's a shame to see Denver go, and it's a shame that that I was posting and digging up throughout the week is kind of like lost memories. People don't realize I wish we'd have done that more with Atlanta and Houston and some of the other tracks we've lost recently. These places have more history than you might think, and they kept mentioning it over the PA all weekend. This was the debut track. That's where they started perfecting that all out to get that working. A cooled starting line with water lines under it, under the concrete to keep it, the scrubbers, the ATVs at the end to push. They got to go up that big hill. I mean, there's a lot of innovations and everything that have come with this track that are not even racing. That realize and understand that history, and the hard also said, yeah, in a couple of years they may build another Taj Mahal right over there by the Denver airport. They said they're looking at some properties there, but I'm sure if you buy the airport, you're not going to be cutting the side of the mountain like this place was. It may be the last Mile High Nationals at Bandimere, but not the last Mile High Nationals in general. I hope not. I hope they come back. It is a unique challenge for the tuners and drivers alike with the thin air. And Darren can attest. He texted me and he's like, man, these steps are hard. And it's the truth, man. And it's a whole different combination. And the countdown kind of changed it, but it used to be to have a good season and perfect your season. You had to be good on the hot tracks and the slick tracks, on the mile high tracks, and in the good, when it all put together back in before the countdown happened. And it's a lot of cool stuff that's happened there, a lot of one-offs that have happened there, a lot of drivers who don't have success elsewhere have had success there. It's been a great equalizer for a lot of teams. Yeah. It's a shame to see it off the schedule. But with that being said, you and props to the Bandimere family for putting it together all these years and investing what they've had into it. And I've seen a lot of people that don't understand the comments that have been on social media that are just like, oh, they sold out or they took the money. They didn't. That's not what this is about. They did, but it's because they're planning to invest into their future. And this particular facility, may not be their future. Still has a future in the greater Denver area. And, I hope it comes back. We need the Western Swing on the schedule. I'm kind of bummed that it'll be the last one for a long time. That's one that doesn't get, played up, I guess, as much for successes on the Western Swing. But congratulations to the guys that won the last race, and good luck trying to sweep the last swing that we're going to have for a little while.
And Dave, you mentioned, you had a lot of fun doing the uploads and the posting of Denver memories. And that was awesome. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that type of stuff.
Facebook, it's my name, Dave. The same thing, David.Weslowski. And but so you're going to have to try and find somebody else that already.
I'll post it in the comments. I'll put it in the comments.
I try, if I post something on Facebook, whatever group it's relevant in, if I had pro stock posts, I tried to share it in all the pro stock. I had a funny car post. I tried to share it to all the funny car groups. I know to the rear engine dragster and any from the past groups, just so people get, more coverage than just on my page alone, because the groups are where it's at. Some of those groups have upwards of 15, 20,000 members. Whether they're all real or some of them are bots or not, you put it out there and you get a little bit more reach. And, some people comment that I was there when that happened. I forgot about that, or, oh, I got to see that in person, going even way back to the Brown went in there and some of the stuff from back in the 70s and early 80s that there was no TV coverage of. So all you have are pictures of, Winner's Circle and, pictures out of the National Dragster magazines from the day. Record you got that those races ever even happened, but they happened, and they're part of the NHRA history, and they're part of Bandimere history. And
guess is Lee Craft, the Monday Morning Racer, is calling me right now. He must not know we're live on air, so I got to get this call. Mike, I know you're trying to get not trying to. You actually have a YouTube channel. You're starting to post again now on that YouTube channel. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media and your YouTube channel, RPM HD.
RPM HD on that's my YouTube channel. Also have our RPM HD Facebook account and an Instagram account. I went live for the first time Saturday night. Darren witnessed that, and bear with me. Going live is not easy. I told Darren it's like losing your virginity. It's a great experience, but the performance was horrible. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, it's not a bear with me. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was fun, but I'm hard on myself. And you go up to the mindset of everything you're going to talk, and then you just draw a blank the moment you go live. I mean, this is not easy. And I commend Darren for doing this because, man, this is not as easy as all you guys. This is not as easy as it looks. Trust me, it's not.
You'll get it, brother.
You're going live. Man.
Being able to do it as a monologue and just sit there and stare at a camera and talk, because I need the interaction. I hate just sitting there talking to myself because I'm like, man, who gives a shit what I have to if you get a group of people, we can have a conversation.
You're right. It's much easier for me to sit here and bounce. You know, we all kind of bounce off each other, and you just go live by yourself. Man, it's just you. It's different. It is.
And you hope the comments come rolling in.
It takes some work, but you'll get it, man. You'll get it.
No, and that's part of the process. So I understand that. You know, I'll get better with time. Like I said, I was live and I told people, bear with me here because I know I'm all over the place. I'm going from Top Fuel to Pro Stock Motorcycle to, I mean, I was all over the place, but it was fun. It was still fun, but I'm hard on myself, and that's why I said it was. In my mind, I didn't perform as great, but it was a great experience.
And he's being hard on himself. He did a good job. I was in the other room listening to it, and Mike would tell you this: when you're sitting in front of a camera just by yourself talking, you try your hardest not to laugh because it's like you have to you can't be self-conscious. It's like you just want to laugh because it's like you're literally talking to a camera by yourself. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, you're doing that, and then you got these videos lined up that you want to overlap and talk over, and then you can't find the video. I mean, you just all of a sudden the writing gets smaller, and you can't see the ones you want to find. I mean, it just. Then you start snowballing, you're blabbering and stuff. Yeah, it definitely different.
Yes, sir.
You did a great job, though, man. Dujane, man, where can we find you on social media, man?
NotBland21 on everything. That's Threads. That's Twitter. That's
we got
Facebook,
Threads,
Instagram. Yes, we're over on Threads there. I was sharing a lot of Dave W's work on Facebook.
Thank you. Trying
to share that on Threads as well. But that's where you can find me at. I love talking shop with you guys. I have great interaction with Drag Racing Central. I really love his thought process and what he thinks about the sport and the growth of the sport. I get a chance to chat with Breyer as well. Love talking shop with you guys. So you want to hit me up? It's no problem. We'll chat it up. Love talking NHRA drag racing.
The Mystic says, was there a NASCAR race today? Yes, the Magical Mile. Martin Truex Jr. got the win at the Magic Mile in New Hampshire.
I recorded it. I didn't want to.
Oh, sorry.
Appreciate that.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Hey, my bad.
Even though it was interesting, there was a lot of 2-3 wide battling and whatnot, but then Truex just kind of opened a can of and that was it.
I'm sorry, Mike.
First win at the Magic Mile, home track for Martin Truex Jr. Good job.
Oh man, I feel so bad now. Dang. DRC, I will link that in the comments after the show. I'll put everybody's Instagrams and all that stuff in the comments, the description box. I mean, after the show. But thank you guys all for tuning in to this special edition of Inside the NHRA as we break down the final event from Vandermeer Speedway, Thunder Mountain, the 2023 Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals in Pro Stock Motorcycle. Gage Herrera gets the win, 4th win of the season, 4th of his career, and he is your points leader going into Seattle. Can he be the first to sweep the Western Swing in Pro Stock Motorcycle? Troy Coughlin Jr. in the Jags Yellow and Black Camaro gets the win, 4th win of his career, 2nd on the season. In Nitro Funny Car, the Dodge driver wins the Dodge race on his mom's birthday weekend. She passed about 6 months ago. He sweeps the weekend, #1 qualifier. Mission Foods wins the Mission Foods and wins the race on Sunday. And finally, in Top Fuel Eliminator, Clay Millican gets the win, 5th of his career, 2nd of the season. That is 2nd most in the class. And like I said, I've been harping on it. That run of the weekend in the Q3 in the heat, 3:79 elapsed time. They worked on it and won the race. We'll see you guys next weekend. We'll be back on a regular day Sunday to break down the NHRA Northwest Nationals from Pacific Raceways. We leave you guys with this outro. Thanks in part to to my man, Dave W. All the credit goes to him. Good night, everybody.